Great to see everyone today. Yeah, we're really happy to be here in Thailand and hosting DogeCon. Oh yeah, for the slides, right? But yeah, so today I'm going to be talking a little bit about what we're doing at QED on Doge. Because, yeah, maybe we can get into it. I believe it's the up button, down button, it looks like. There we go. But yeah, just a little bit about myself. I come from the more traditional security community before I entered blockchain. I wrote the first virus or worm for game consoles that could spread from one game console to another. So I did a little bit of black hat stuff back in the day, but yeah, I also built ModKey, which is like a modding tool for the mobile version of Minecraft. Yeah, I read some proof of stake stuff before I got converted over to the light side, of course, proof of work. But yeah, so let's talk about Dogecoin. That's why we're all here, right? Right now, as it sits, Dogecoin doesn't have DeFi, it doesn't have dApps, it doesn't have stablecoin payments, no games, none of all the nice functionality that we see on Ethereum, but it does have one very, very special thing. It has by far the best community in crypto. As we can see all here today, right? Yeah! So, yeah, so it's in this weird place where everyone loves Doge, and there's tons of Doge holders, but after you buy Doge on the exchange, there's not really much thereafter for users or fans of Doge to do. And this stems from the fact that Doge originally was a fork of an old version of Bitcoin, right? And because of that, we don't have smart contracts, and we also have a very strict limitation on the block size, right? So we can't scale too much because we're limited to 1 megabyte per block, which is even smaller than Bitcoin, right? And of course, what do we actually want Dogecoin to be, right? We want to be the best, we want to continue being the best community in crypto, but we also want smart contracts and DeFi and dApps and DEXs and games and support for Ethereum and Bitcoin wallets, and we want all this stuff and we want it to work great. So how do we do this? Especially this last one. How do we get infinite scalability so that people's currency can be used by all the people for transactions like buying pizza, as has been promoted in Bloomberg and other publications that you can do with Doge, right? And I guess one very, very important caveat that I want to highlight is that we also want to preserve the same security that Doge has. While through the years there have been many tokens come and go, no one has ever hacked Dogecoin, right? We know it's a very secure asset. It's backed by the security of Litecoin, enormous amounts of hash power. It's an extremely secure platform. Many would even argue more secure than an Ethereum or a Solana. So can we get all this and preserve that? Can we have our cake and eat it too? Well, let's just look really quickly at what that would look like. If we define it more clearly, what we want to have is something like a ZK Validium on Doge, where I can guarantee that if I deposit funds into the ZK Validium, it's guaranteed to give me those funds and that they'll always be a non-custodial in my control. So that means no multi-sigs, no proof of stake, none of that nonsense, right? We need to be able to guarantee these things. In addition, I should be able to transfer funds back and forth, use smart contracts, dApps, DeFi, the works, right? And then when I want to withdraw my funds back to Doge, or back to layer 1, I should be able to do that, and no one should be able to stop me. We don't want any Merlin chain situations where I gotta wait a week, or someone's gotta approve me, or I'm relying on this group of 3 or 4 people that maybe have to do a multi-sig. We can't have that, right? Because those people could run away with our Doge, and that was my money. So I guess the old saying is, not my keys, not my crypto, right? Not my keys, not my crypto. Don't send other people your money. That's why we're in crypto in the first place, right? The reason why we like Bitcoin is because I own my own money, not some bank. So we definitely can't go that route. And oh yeah, there's a little copy there that I forgot, which is to put this, or to summarize this very succinctly. Another way we can say it is that the only way someone should be able to steal user funds from an execution layer like QED is if they break Dogecoin's own proof of work. So the only way to hack the execution layer, if it's truly on Doge, should be that you must hack Doge itself, right? We must preserve this. But how do we verify a zero-knowledge proof on Dogecoin? Wait, does everyone know what zero-knowledge proofs are? They're a pretty cool thing. No one? Someone? All of them? Some of them. Okay. So think of zero-knowledge proof as, of course, Mr. Jens Groth knows. Oh, by the way, anyone ever heard of Groth 16? We got Groth right here, the real one. But yeah, so ZKPs, like from a blockchain perspective, they do many things, right? They preserve privacy. There's a lot of other mathematical details. But from your perspective, from a blockchain perspective, you can understand that I can take any really long computation, like processing 1 million transactions, and generate a tiny little proof that proves that all of those transactions were signed correctly, that no one double spent, and I can compress a really big computation to a very small size, which is very important since, again, we've got a 1 megabyte limit here. But the tricks that people are playing around with on Bitcoin don't really work on Dogecoin. Dogecoin doesn't have our wonderful taproot that we have on Bitcoin. We don't even have Segwit. It's a very old version of Bitcoin. We only have a thing called P2SH. And what that means is that we're limited to like 500 bytes for the script. So we're not going to be able to implement this with like weird workarounds for not having multiplication or any of that. We need an opcode. And OPCAT is not going to help us here. We know in the Bitcoin community there's many people that want to use OPCAT. The amount of transactions it would require would be thousands and thousands, if not tens of thousands. So that's not really a good place to start. But again, maybe we can add a ZKP opcode, and just maybe we can fit a ZKP verification inside a standard Dogecoin transaction without having to modify the block size, the maximum transaction size, or any of the consensus parameters, right? Let's see if we can do it. Well, it turns out we can, right? With our wonderful friend, Groth16 verifies. So, yeah, so it's just to give everyone a heads up, it's a little bit jargony, but the main idea here is we can verify a zero-knowledge proof that proves that an execution layer has legally transitioned from state A to state B, which means that we've processed a bunch of transactions, and that this layer 2 or execution layer like QED has transitioned from a Merkle root, or the root state A to B. So before those transactions were processed, to what the what the balances look like after the transactions were processed. And we meet all the conditions that we want, right? It's soft forkable, which means that if we upgrade Dogecoin and our mining friends upgrade their software, then it just goes live. And it's, miner enforced. So we always want things to be soft forkable. As I was saying, we don't want to change the script or block size limits. And then most importantly, we want to be able to scale Dogecoin with this. If we're doing Starks with OPCAT on Dogecoin, the ratio of how many transactions you need to verify the Stark compared to how many transactions you're verifying within the Stark is way out of proportion, meaning it's actually hurting Dogecoin rather than helping. So yeah, this wonderful opcode named after our good friend Jens Groth, who will be speaking soon, really does do the trick. But yeah, this is just some technical stuff. This is kind of how the script looks like. Anyone here familiar with Bitcoin script or Dogecoin script? Anyone here? Hey, we got one. Anyone else? Okay. And what is it? There's some weird outputs for staff modification. I forget. But yeah, so basically we put the proof in the witness or unlock script. And then because we can't actually fit the entire verifier key for the proof inside the P2SH script, we also include the verifier there in the witness, but then we store the hash of part of the verifier key in the actual script, which we then, check that hash, is the same as what we expect, and then we verify the proof, and then we drop all the elements from the stack. And the reason why we don't remove the elements from the stack directly is just to make it so that older versions of the Dogecoin software will just process this as a successful transaction. If they haven't upgraded. So this is kind of the soft forkable bit that we want to guarantee. But yeah, so like, if we look over here, do you guys know what public inputs are? Should I talk about this stuff? The tech stuff? Do we want to go into tech stuff? Raise your hand. Tech stuff? Okay, we can do a little bit of tech. We got like the 25% tech stuff. Okay, so if we look back here, if we look on the stack, we'll just hop over here. We've got a couple things. So we've got, over here we've got our proof, and we've got one public input up there, right? Only one. Where is the other public input? Because we said we're gonna have two public inputs, right? So the other public input is what's called the SIG hash. So when you sign a Bitcoin or Dogecoin transaction, you're signing this hash, which is like the cryptographic fingerprint of a transaction without the signatures included, right? So that has all the information about what UTXOs are being spent. So if I sent some money to someone and they're spending it, we know who is sending it. And then what the next outputs or who I'm sending the money to. Right? That information is all included in the SIG hash. And we include that as a public input to the proof. So we have one public input, which is user control, and one which is the SIG hash. And the result of that is that that user input, that user configured public input can represent the state of a layer 2 or an execution layer. And then the SIG hash helps you enforce, well, actually allows you to enforce, that anyone who deposits money in, they're definitely going to get credited on the execution layer. And anyone who wants to withdraw, it guarantees that their withdrawals are processed. So we're guaranteed that if you put money into this execution layer, you will be able to use it. And if you want to, at any time, you can take that money and withdraw it back to layer 1. You don't need my permission. You don't need my friend Tony's permission. You don't need any. If we're in a plane, you know, God forbid, knock on wood, right? If our whole team is on a plane and then suddenly, you know, MH, what was the one that disappeared, right? So Beijing again, right? If that happens, right, your Doge will be fine. If we don't pay our AWS bill, your Doge will be fine. So again, not my keys, not my crypto. We are fully non-custodial, right? And this is the key. So we just look over this. So if we look at here, you get to see kind of how the SIG hash works. Like here you can see the previous block script is determining what the new start state is going to be for the chain, right? And then we have the different deposits from users like you who want to use some DeFi apps or maybe a DEX on Dogecoin. And then this is all used to compute the SIG hash. Along with this, here we've got our withdrawals. And then we make sure that the next block script includes the starting state of the next block, which is the current block's end state, inside the script hash. So it's hard-coded in there, so that we know that for the future state transition proofs, we must start at what the end state of the current block is, or we're enforcing that the next block must come after the current block, which makes sense, right? And it forms a recursive, what's called a covenant. There we go. But of course, I talked a lot of gibberish, right, for some of the folks that did not raise their hands earlier. And you may be wondering, am I just talking out of my ass, right? Is this all theoretical? Is this an idea? Is this a great white paper with no code or no implementation? Well, in fact, we've actually built an open source fully end-to-end ZK role using this. We haven't fully open sourced QED yet, but we took part of the QED source code that was ready to go and sort of cordoned it off, and also built accompanying wallets, block explorers, the works, using this paradigm. And you can, using this opcode, start up a basic role that allows you to do token transfers, trustless peg in and peg out today. And let's roll the clip. Let's roll the clip. There we go. So you can see I can deposit money in. So over here we have my Doge wallet, and then we have our web wallet. I've now received the Doge on layer 2 by claiming the transaction ID. I'll just stop there real quick. So essentially the way that you claim a deposit on layer 2 is you sign a message from the same key that you use to deposit. So when you deposit, you're going to sign some transaction that says, oh, I want to deposit X number of dollars, or X number of Doge rather, into QED. And we know from that signature, and specifically like the transaction, because you have to include your public key there, that X person, X wallet on Dogecoin made this deposit. So I just have to claim my deposit on layer 2, I just have to sign a message with the same wallet saying, hey, this is me, I want to claim this deposit for this user on QED. Right? Oops. So yeah, I transfer, make the deposit, And you can see over here we have our pegs, because it's called pegging in, or putting your money in. I'll receive the balance on layer 2 by claiming that deposit, signing the message. I've now claimed the deposit right now, and now I can transfer from user to user, as I was mentioning before, and now I can withdraw it back to Doge. So all this is open source. If you want to play around with it, like, we encourage more layer 2s to come to Doge, or we call ourselves an execution layer. You can call yourself an execution layer 2. We're at such an early stage here with Dogecoin that we just need more people building stuff on Dogecoin. And we are the number 6 cryptocurrency in the world, but we have no dApps, no DEXs, no DeFi. It's about time we come together and build some cool shit. But yeah, so just a little bit of self-shilling about our own project, QED, of course. So I mentioned before that we have this issue with Doge where it only is a 1 megabyte block, right? So with a 1 megabyte block, we really can't scale things up. Oh, by the way, those seats over there, if any of the standing room only folks want to, yep, your call. But yeah, so we have these 1 megabyte blocks. We can't fit that many transactions inside. But for the vision of Elon, right, we want to make it the people's currency. We want to have millions of people transacting on Doge in parallel. How can we do that? Well, we need to have some kind of a different state model which guarantees something like there won't be race conditions between users so that we can process transactions in full parallel. And again, we want to prove everything end to end. In our QED, we also support multiple zkVMs. So you can write smart contracts in JavaScript, TypeScript, EVM, whether it's Viper or Solidity. Do people use Viper anymore? Anyone using Viper? Viper? You know that EVM lane that had that critical vulnerability in it that no one uses any? Oh yeah, you can use Viper if you want, but Solidity works. But yeah, we've got Rust, and the really cool thing here is that we prove everything end to end. So again, there's no multi-sig, there's no centralized sequencer, there's no weird person that you have to trust. In fact, you can prove your transactions locally. And the key thing here is that our block times are both log n. And that means that it only takes, 8 times longer to prove a million transactions than to prove 100. So what does a QED block look like? So how do we achieve this massive parallelism? Well, on QED, users prove their own transactions. So you can see the users are proving their transactions in parallel, they're making updates to the state locally, and then they generate a ZK signature with their Faker wall, submit their transactions off the chain, and then we build a tree of proofs, which culminates in a single succinct proof, which is then verified in the Groth 16 proof, that is then sent off to Dogecoin. So we've tested on AWS with a ton of relatively cheap nodes. We don't have that much money, but yeah, with I think it was 50,000 concurrent instances, we hit 100K or 200K TPS. So that's also good. On top of that, if we look at the way that QED's proving works, you prove your transactions locally. And the cool thing about that, since we have guarantees against race conditions between users within the same block, we can allow users to prove as many transactions as they like and all wrap it in one proof. So it's not just that we can do 100, 200,000 TPS, we can do 1 to 200,000 UOPS. And each one of those users can be submitting as many transactions with whatever complexity you want, right? Because you're proving it locally, the proof is going to be the same size at the end. If you want to spend time, calculating the 1 trillion digit of pi and prove it on chain, you can do it, right? And your gas fee is going to be exactly the same. So yeah, 1 gas fee for unlimited transactions. Of course, you do have to pay if you modify a bunch of state values. You do still pay for state value, but if you imagine, let's say I'm doing payments for my company and I'm mutating my balance, it's a lot more lightweight, it's a lot cheaper. But yeah, this is just kind of how our block aggregation in parallel works. You can see that we take 4 proofs and recursively verify 1 proof, and then we take those 4 proofs that we've generated, verify 1 proof, and then we have the end result. If we count the time p that it takes to prove those, it's 2p for 16. We all know 4 squared is 16, right? So yeah, so for a 1 million transaction block, it takes 300 milliseconds to do the 4-to-1 recursion. on like my MacBook. And it takes, so in that case, it takes about like 2.89, roughly like 3 seconds to generate a 1 million transaction block. Of course, the proofs are like 20 kilobytes, so there is some network time. Fortunately, at 20 kilobytes, it does fit in one nice TCP packet. So like, let's add another 100 milliseconds there. We're looking at 4 seconds per million transactions instead of 3, which is still pretty damn good, right? But yeah, QED also has this really cool thing called programmable smart signatures, which means that you can use your existing Ethereum or Bitcoin wallet to sign transactions on QED. And I'm not just talking about you can use that same elliptic curve key. No, with QED, we can actually support whatever signing scheme your existing chain is using, because on QED, your public key is actually the hash of the verifier key of an arbitrary zero-knowledge circuit. So you can program whatever logic you want, make it a multi-sig, make it so that you need, I don't know, I need to prove that I haven't made a transaction in the last 10 minutes, or I'm only using this contract. And you can write all that logic in these nice, we call them smart signatures or smart keys. It's sort of like a smart contract decoding interface. And yeah, you can really code whatever logic you want. And this is really cool for agents, right? Because I can make these autonomous bots that, let's say, are only allowed to call these functions on these contracts under these conditions, because the smart signature is also aware of the state of the chain. And that allows us to do some really cool things, like allowing applications to define their own custom sequencing rules, support like, other L2s, to be L2s on Doge by just opening up a contract or creating a user on QED. And we can also enforce, this is the key here, we can enforce intents and covenants across users. Because we have hard guarantees against race conditions between different users within a block. One of the downsides of that is that certain inherently serial applications are difficult to build within that model. This makes it much easier. We just make a bot user that's going to crunch through one contract and needs to follow, let's say, fair sequencing rules, no sandwich attacks, pseudo-random ordering. All this you can code in your smart signature. So what does all this mean, right? I just blah, 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 right? But the reality is that with QED, and with Riptors, of course, we can compute anything on Dogecoin that we want. And we can do it at credit card scale. So if we want to make a Visa with this kind of a model, we can do it. And we can do it today. So we get such DeFi, many dApps, much stablecoin payments, very games, wow, support for ETC and BTC wallets. And of course, we get our 1 megabyte blocks, unchained. Miners are happy, node runners are happy, with infinite scalability. Okay? So, and wait, we forgot the most important thing of all. Turn off your phones. We forgot the most important thing of all. All with the same security Dogecoin has today. Not your keys, not your crypto, right? Yay. Right? And as a closing thought, a lot of people talk about scale and kind of laugh off, like, oh, haha, so many TPS, blah, 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 right? First of all, we've demonstrated on AWS, and I realize other people have scalable blockchains, but to have a secure, hyper-scalable, like decentralized, trustless computer is actually a really, really cool thing. And in our industry, we often get distracted by trends, and I know I have as well. But like, if we look at it from sort of a high view, the impact of any technology is proportional to how scalable it is. Because every time we have a technology that impacts someone's life, we're just doing humanity we're giving humanity a little bit of a boost. So if we multiply that by the number of people that can use our technology, that's going to be our impact on the world. And we need a trustless, improvably fair internet. We all know how things are going. Maybe there's some platforms that censor more than others, but we're kind of headed in that direction. And we need something that can scale, and yeah, scaling is not a narrative. It should be a responsibility of our industry, especially given the amount of capital that has been invested in all of us, right? Humanity has given us $1 trillion, right? We can't just make applications for us, we have to make it for everyone. So yeah, and we hope that everyone can come along the journey and build other layer 2s, even compete with us, build applications, and just do everything for the spirit of Doge. Yeah, thank you guys. And follow us on Twitter, I have to say. Yeah!
Thank you, everybody. Okay, let me just see here. So I want to talk about Groth 16 proofs on DogeCoin. And let's start going 8 years back in time, a trip down memory lane. So this is 8 years ago. This is Groth 2016. Thank you to our MC Emily for actually pronouncing my name correctly. And in 2016, I wrote an article, Groth 16, which the community has decided to pronounce differently. So there was two parts to this article. So it was thinking about what is the size of a proof when you're proving something, right? How small can that size be? And I was looking at pairing-based proofs and found that the size should be at least 2 group elements. And then I came up with a construction that used 3 group elements. And that is the construction that people are referring to now. And the question of can you squeeze it all the way down to 2 group elements, or is it actually 3 group elements that's the minimum? That's still an open question today. Okay, so let's see. So fast forward to 2024. Now we have the new opcode to check Groth 16 proofs on Doge. So thanks to QED protocol for developing that opcode. And this is, it's very interesting, right? Because in general, you don't know where research takes you, right? So if you think back to 2016, and I wrote in my paper, right? I had a paragraph that thanked all the sponsors of the research. So I got funding from the EU, from the British government, and so forth. And if you think about, when you apply for a grant, right, you have to write an impact statement. You have to specify, who is going to benefit from this, right? What is the effect going to be? How are they going to benefit? How likely is it to be adopted, right? Because society wants bang for its bucks, right? And at the end of the grant, you may also have to file a report saying, what actually happened, right? And in this case, I would probably say something along the lines of this been implemented in Lipsnark, an open source library. It's been used in Zcash because they were the early adopters of Groth 16 proofs. Now, the 2016 version of me, I think, would be very surprised to be here today at this conference here. Even the 2020 version of me is very surprised to be here today. But here we are, DogeCon 2024. Woo! Yeah! Okay, so I want to talk a bit about, in general, why is it that we care about CK proofs in the blockchain space? What are they good for? And then I want to dig a bit into the details of Groth 16 proofs and see what is the power that they're providing, right, and why they're so useful in this particular context. So first of all, if I'm a cryptographer, this is how I'm going to define a proof system. So this is what I was talking about in the paper. And the first thing you want to specify is which class of statements is it that you can prove. And the way you define that is you specify a relation. Okay, this relation here has some instances, okay, and some conditions that this is a good instance, right? So your statement will be, here is an instance that satisfies these conditions, okay? And then maybe you also have a witness that makes it very easy to check whether those conditions are satisfied. Okay, so now what is a non-interactive proof for this class of statements? Well, in this case here, it specifies a setup So there's a prover key and there's a verifier key. And you can think of this as something that's known to everybody. This is public information. And typically this is generated by some multi-party computation, a ceremony where multiple parties come together and you don't have to trust either single party for security. And when you then have the setup, then the prover will use the prover key together with the instance and the witness that this is actually a true statement, right? That the instance does belong to the relation or satisfy these conditions. And create a proof from that. And the verifier will use the verification key and check the instance together with the proof, and then either accept the proof or reject the proof. Non-interactive proofs, zero-knowledge proofs were invented back in the 80s, okay, and have three sort of like properties, okay? The first one is completeness. That if this is a true statement, if the prover really has a witness, then it should be possible to create a proof. Okay, so that's very natural. You can actually do something with these proofs. The other property is that if the instance is not in the relation, so in other words, if you're looking at a false statement, then it should be impossible to create a proof, right? And then there was this super interesting property that they added. They were really trying to think, what is the computer science equivalence of a mathematical proof, right? They realized it can be zero knowledge, okay? The proof does not reveal anything about the prover's witness. It gives you just one bit of information. This is a true statement, and reveals nothing else, right? And that's surprising that you can convince people that something is true without telling them why it's true. Okay, so nowadays people talk about snarks. Okay, what is a snark? Well, it's a special type of non-interactive proof. It's a proof which is succinct, so the proof is very, very small. Okay, and that is cool because it means it's cheap to store, it's easy to verify. This is what we want in Doge. Second part is that it's non-interactive. Okay, so the proof, originally, the original definition said, okay, you could actually have the prover and verifier interact with each other. It's like the verifier is interrogating the prover. Okay? But this is actually a non-interactive proof. The prover can just go ahead, create the proof, and be done with it. Okay? And that's a really nice property because now you can take the proof and you can copy it, and you can set it and distribute it to all sorts of people. And they can also check the proof. And finally, it should be an argument of knowledge. And what does that mean? Well, that's a bit technical, but it basically means that if you have a valid proof, then in theory, you could also have reconstructed the witness, right? So it implies soundness. Okay, so let's see a couple of examples of how this has been used in the blockchain space, okay? And the first one I want to talk about is private payments, okay? And this is something that Zcash, for instance, were early explorers of this space. Okay, so if you think about like traditional coins, right, then basically when you create, so like send money to a new address, create a new coin, well, you spend some old money, right, and you create a new one, and you can check all of that, you can see all of what's going on. The idea here is, well, instead of that, let's use a zero-knowledge proof to prove that a previous coin was spent, right? And why is this cool? Well, because it can make it's private who was it that sent that money, right? Now you just know that one of the previous coins has been spent, but you don't know which one. Okay, and it's a public verifiable proof, right? So anybody can check it. Okay, and the zero-knowledge property is the thing that gives us the guarantee that you don't know who it was that sent this payment. Okay, so I want to give another example where what we're going to leverage here is really the succinctness of the proofs. Okay, so think of a traditional chain, okay? And you're looking at some, like, this is the current block, this is the state of the chain. How are you going to verify that? Well, you're going to download the whole chain, right, and work your way all the way back to the Genesis block. And then you know that this is correct. But there's this really nice idea of using zero-knowledge proofs instead to make that a much simpler process, right? Because what you really want is just to look at the last block and the state of the blockchain right now. And then if you have a proof that this is correct, in other words, that there exists the whole chain back to the Genesis block, that's all you need, right? That's all you need to verify. So that's much cheaper than downloading everything. You can really have these succinct chains where you just need to get the latest block and a proof that this is correct. And I think this is something, I think Mina were the first ones to explore this notion. And what we're leveraging here is not the zero-knowledge property, it's really the succinctness property that the proofs are very small, right? There's a lot of misnaming in this community where everything is called ZK, even if it's not the zero-knowledge property. And I really like the proposal of redefining that to be zipped by cryptography. Okay, there are lots of other applications of zero-knowledge proofs in the blockchain space, right? So there are scalability applications where you leverage succinctness to roll-ups, bridges, co-processors, L1s. And then there's privacy applications where you're leveraging the zero-knowledge property. And I want to look a little more at one of those applications, so ZK rollups, right? The kind of thing that we now have on Doge thanks to QED's work. Okay, so what is the core idea? Well, think of a chain which has, let's say, a chain that has smart contracts, right? Which Doge used to not have. But there was another blockchain that was invented in 2013 that I shall not name that has that kind of property. But it's low throughput, right, and it's quite expensive. So what can we do? And along came the idea of ZK rollups. Let's move computation off-chain and just do the verification on-chain. Because really what blockchain is about is verifying that something happened, not actually doing the work. Right? So the idea here is that we take transactions we have incoming, and then we compute what change should this give to the smart contract, and we create a proof that this is correct change. And now all we have to feed to the smart contract is, hey, this is the change you should make, and here's a proof that this is correct, this really is the change you should make. Right? And now the smart contract doesn't have to do the computation, just updates its state. So, what is the conclusion here? Well, we can just have an L1 now that acts as a verification layer, right? So you have all these collaborative L3s, L2s, and so forth. They get lots of transactions, they do computations, they execute smart contracts, and so forth. At the end of the day, they just compute what is the change that happens at the very end from all this computation and all this action, and give a proof that this is correct. So what we need from the L1 is just that it's a verification and settlement layer, right? And that's exactly what we can do now on Doge. So let me give you the very short history of Doge, right? We have Bitcoin in 2008. We got Litecoin from that in 2011. Now we've got Doge in 2013. And then, as far as I understand, not that much happened. But in 2024, now we have Doge and Snarks. Yeah! Okay, so this is why zero-knowledge proofs are so important and so valuable to Doge. Now I want to dig a little into the details of what are Groth 16 proofs. So let's start with the history of that as well. Okay, so the very succinct history of that. In the 80s, zero-knowledge proofs were invented. About a decade later, Killian and Mikaeli realized, well, that they can actually be succinct, okay? They can be really compact, and they can be non-interactive, so that gives us snarks. Okay? They didn't use this name snark. This name snark was only invented in 2012, but it was a snark. Okay? In 2010, I realized that there was sort of like this trend of using pairing-based cryptography, and you realized that there was a lot of cryptographic things you could do with pairings, and I realized you could use them to construct snarks. And people seized on that and improved them, reduced the cost and the size, and also came up with this language quadratic arithmetic programs and created proofs for those. And then many more of these pairing-based snarks came along. And then in 2016, I wrote this paper, which people now refer to as Groth 2016, which is either optimal or almost optimal, right, depending on this remaining question. And then, as I say, the rest is history. Like, we saw implementations, we saw adoption of it. We have people that done like formal verification of the protocol to make sure that there are really no holes in it. And there's a standardization effort ongoing with secretproof.org, leading a standardization effort. Now, this line is not entirely to scale. So, and one thing I think many people are not aware of is how small a gap it was between producing the paper, which just had like a theoretical description, and implementation. Okay? So I wrote this paper. I put it on ePrint in the evening. Okay? I wake up in the morning and I have an email from Alessandro Chiesa and Madaris Virsa that said, we implemented this and here are the benchmarks. Okay? So we're not talking weeks, we're not talking days, we're talking about hours to implement this. Okay? That was really impressive. And of course, the reason they could do that is because they already had built LibSnark, they had other pairing-based snarks in there, right? So they had like just a really good tool chain. Okay, so let's dig a little further into it. What do I have to describe? So first of all, I'll have to describe this relation, what is the class of statements we can prove with Groth 16 proofs. Then after that, I'll jump to describing how does the verifier work. And then after that, I'll describe how does the prover work, right? And I hope along the way, I'll also like not go too deep into the math, but I hope I'll be able to show you why is it that this is a succinct proof, why is it a snark. Okay, so the type of language we have, so the type of statements we can verify is basically that a quadratic arithmetic program is satisfied. So what is that? A quadratic arithmetic program specifies a bunch of polynomials, ui, vi, wi, n plus one of each of those, and also a target polynomial t of x. Okay? An instance consists of L field elements, okay? And the witness is additional field elements.
I cannot see it.
And what you do now is you take basically a summation of these polynomials and weighted summation of these field elements, okay? And if you take the first weighted summation, multiply that with the second weighted summation, then that should be the third weighted summation modulo this t of x. Okay? And that probably seems quite abstract if you've not seen that before, so why do we care about that? Well, it turns out that it works really well to construct proofs, and it is NP complete, and you can actually see, and it's actually quite simple to translate other constraint systems that are popular, for instance, R1CS constraints to a quadratic arithmetic program. So typically the process would be something, here's the class of statements we really care about. We will reformulate them with rank 1 constraint systems. We will reformulate that as quadratic arithmetic programs, and then we will prove it. Okay, so now let's use pairings. Okay, so what are pairings? Well, so basically you will have a triple of cyclic groups of prime size p. Okay, and then you will have a bilinear map, the pairing, that maps two source group elements to the target group. Okay, and it should be linear, so like on the left side, and it should be linear on the right side, and that's sort of like what gives us the magical properties of pairings. Okay, so let's describe the verification key. Okay, it has L plus 5 group elements. Okay, so it's basically the same size as an instance. And a proof consists of 3 group elements, 2 from the first source group, 1 from the second source group. Okay, and typically that's the way you want it because the first source group has smaller group elements representations than the second source group. Okay, now to verify that, well, you compute this sum of points on the elliptic curve, so in other words, sum of group elements weighted with the instance field elements, right? And then some pairing product equations. Okay, so it's a fairly straightforward verification check. Okay, so is this a snark? Well, it is, right? It's succinct. You only have 3 group elements. Okay, and this is regardless of how big a statement we're talking about, right? Even if L is 1,000,000, then the proof is still just 3 group elements. Okay?
We like succinctness, right?
So, right? So this is amazing, right? So like with typical sizes of these groups, we're talking about less than 200 bytes, right? So you can take an arbitrary complex statement and prove it with less than 200 bytes. Okay? Verification is just so much cheaper than computation, right? It's amazing. Okay? And the verification algorithm also pretty easy, right? So you will have to do so like, L of these weighted sums here, right, inside, and then do a few pairings, okay? And that's about as cheap as it gets, right? I mean, you have to do something with every field element in the instance, right? Because otherwise, the attacker could just flip one of them, right, and cheat you. Okay, so you have to pay at least the cost of reading the instance, right? And that's more or less what you're getting here. So this is a very succinct, okay? Now, proof generation, much more complicated. So I think I'll skip all the math here and leave it as a homework exercise to check that it all verifies. But one thing to note about the proving algorithm is that it's not that efficient, okay? So there are proof systems that are more efficient from the prover perspective. Okay? And typically what you do then, and what you also do here with QED, as Carter explained, right, is that you compose proof systems, okay? So you'll have one proof system which has a super fast prover, but it's only somewhat succinct. And then after that, you will apply Groth 16 proof to show that you had a proof from the first proof system, right? And now you get the best of both worlds. You both have a very efficient prover and a very succinct proof. Okay, so let me shift gears a little and talk about CKVMs, so like more generally, like how do we then make it easy to construct these statements we want to prove and reason about them, right? And this is something that Carter also talked about, right? So there's a lot of teams, we are doing this as Nexus, there's a lot of other teams that are thinking about zero-knowledge virtual machines, okay? So the idea is that you can take a program, you can take an input, you can take a witness, which may or may not be private, okay? And give it to this virtual machine, and it will execute and output a result Y from this computation. And then it will also, and this is why it's called a ZKVM, it will also produce a proof that this is the correct output. Okay? So this sort of gives you a much more readily understandable class of statements, right? Essentially, what the instance here would be the program, the input X and the output Y, and we're saying that Y is the result of this computation, right? And the witness would be this W, right? And basically what the statement says is, this is a correct computation, right? And this computation might be a smart contract or whatever, right? So, and this is what we want to really express in the blockchain space, right? We want to say, hey, this was a correctly executed smart contract. So what do we have now? We have this powerful combination, right? Take a powerful CKVM, okay? Do off-chain computation, right? We have this convenient programming model that, it really is, you can take sort of like RISC-V or WebAssembly or things like that. You have CKVMs for, so it's a convenient, well-known programming model, has fairly high throughput, okay? And you get this very succinct proofs for correctness of the computation. And that enables smart contracts, bridges, whatever you want, right? And now you just take that output and the succinct proof, put that on Doge. Okay, so now we have DogeCoin with snarks, right? It can verify these snarks. You can do arbitrary off-chain computation. You can have all these nice applications that I was talking about before. So thank a lot to QED Protocol for making this change. I really think it's a big change of Doge. Really opens up a lot of opportunities of what you can do on Dogecoin. And I think I want to wrap up here by returning to this question of impact, right? So this is impact I had not predicted at all when I was writing the Groth 16 paper. So I had to update my impact statement. So this is my new impact statement. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. James Groth, for the speech. It's very informative and very interesting.
I have a question.
Okay, please.
Can you tell us a little bit more about Nexus?
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, so the question is what we do at Nexus. So we are basically building a CKVM. So we have an open source, freely downloadable CKVM. The goal is to make that as fast as possible. We've also, in the last month, put out the first version of our proven network. So the idea is that we will have a proven network where people from around the world can come and compute to the proven network, and it can run, distribute the work for a CKVM, so you can get this really powerful, high throughput CKVM running on this network. And we had quite a lot of people contributing to that. We have, I think, more than 70,000 users that were logging into this first version of the proven network.
Anyone has more questions? Okay, then thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
So I'll just first introduce myself. I'm Andy, best-selling book author. I wrote a recent book about NFT 2 years ago. Going to launch another book called Web4 very soon. I'm also representing the Eco Fund from MIMCore, so I'm their fund manager. And maybe you will introduce yourself, bro.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Jordan. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO at MyDoge, #1 Dogecoin wallet. And we'll very soon be launching DogeOS, an app layer for Dogecoin. Yeah, thanks everybody for coming, and also make sure you grab some of these pants downstairs if you haven't. These are going to be a coveted item, I think. Doge Meme Girl, one of the most OG artists in the Dogecoin community, made these for us. She's a local from Bangkok, and this was her idea, so please grab some pants.
I think more people will be interested in your background, right? So when I first spoke to you, I was like asking, so who is CB Doge and all these things, right? And then you're saying, that, oh, you are the CEO. So I got to know more about MyDoge, got to know about the wallet and so forth. But I didn't get to know too much about you. Maybe everyone else have the same feeling. Want to tell us a bit about your background? How did everything get started?
Yeah, so I'm a software engineer, been coding since I was a little kid, and always serial entrepreneur from a young age. I was very lucky to be introduced to crypto quite early in kind of 2010, 2011, when this guy approached me. And basically, when I was a kid, I was trying to build businesses. And at one time, I thought, okay, what's the easiest thing? If I make people money, they'll want to use my product. So I made a platform in high school where people could just earn money online. You could do surveys, you could get cashback shopping, all this kind of stuff. And in 2010, this guy found me and he said, hey, I want to do the same thing, but for Bitcoin. And I was like, okay, what's Bitcoin? So he introduced me to Bitcoin, and we made a platform where people could earn Bitcoin. And I think when we launched, Bitcoin was probably $6 or $8. So you could basically do like a survey and earn $3 in 10 minutes back then. So we essentially made a lot of Bitcoin millionaires, potentially like tens of thousands of Bitcoin millionaires. It was a really big platform. But I was introduced to Bitcoin really early. That was kind of my intro to crypto. But I have to be honest that I was not Doge pilled until much later. I was an early Bitcoin guy. Then I used Litecoin because it was fast and cheap. Shout out if there's any Litecoin community here, because there's a great relationship with Doge. We always support each other. But I never took Doge seriously. Doge came out. I had a roommate who was mining Doge for a year or two. He kept saying, hey man, just do it for fun. Like, it's just for fun. And I was like, what's the point, man? Like, I'm a Bitcoin guy. So I was early into Bitcoin, built a lot of startups since then outside of the crypto space. And a few years ago, I finally got Doge pilled and kind of committed my life to Dogecoin full time. And that's when we started to work on MyDoge.
You see, I fell in love with DogeCoin in the earlier days, where we are giving out the community just like free. P.S. Can I just get all those airdrop back to my wallet? No, just joking. So what makes you fall in love with DogeCoin? Is it because of the meme? I love it because it used to be very convenient, cheap. We use that to interact and be fun. What about your end?
Yeah, I think as a guy who'd never appreciated Dogecoin until a few years ago, and there's probably like most of the people in this room might be more OG than me. I thought it was cool and funny. I just didn't appreciate that like fun actually maybe has the most value of anything. And so, we started working on MyDoge. It was my co-founders who convinced me, hey, Dogecoin is awesome. Let's do this. And I said, okay, sure, it looks fun. I think the part where I really got Doge pilled was probably early on building the wallet. I don't know, how many people have worked in kind of software companies, small startups, but normally the engineers are the ones doing the customer support in the first days, right? You're the dev, you put out the beta version, you're responding to the customers. And I've never in my entire career had such a positive customer support experience as interacting with users of MyDoge in the early days. I mean, we've never lost anyone's money, it's secure, that kind of thing. But in the very early versions, there were certainly issues. Someone would use the app with a new type of phone, and they hadn't backed up their seed phrase, but they also can't send a transaction because there's a bug, and so their Dogecoin is stuck. And normally you would expect people to start freaking out and posting about how you're scammers and things like that. But it was a complete opposite with the Doge community. Everyone just wanted to help. Everyone's like, hey, no worries. Anything we can do to help, just let us know. Hey, you want me to test this? Hey, should I download it on this device? And so I started to realize wow, there's a pretty incredible community vibe in Dogecoin. I've definitely never seen it anywhere else. I would say there's probably nothing like it in the rest of crypto. But that's really what sold me. It was kind of the community. And I'd also say, keeping in mind, when we started MyDoge about 3 years ago, it was post all-time high of Dogecoin. So the people who were really still in the community were just in it for the vibes, for the culture. It was not really about getting rich. You either already made a lot of money or, you know, you bought it at the high and you were just like here having fun. So I would say that's kind of why I grew to love it.
Okay. You know, I know why you built the wallet. You know, it's mainly from the Doge community. You know, I also got some feedback, you know, from some of my friends and so forth. You know, the wallet is, it looks really basic. You know, it's not bad, but it's basic. You know, do you have any intention of building it more with more features? You know, what's coming next, you know, for the wallet?
For sure. So I think anyone who's kind of been a user for a long time knows in the early days we were shipping very, very fast. Tons of iteration, tons of experiments, tons of like cool, fun things that we would just add. And then in the last while, we've been shipping much more slowly and just kind of some incremental changes. And that is because we have been working on, a much bigger update of, you know, MyDoge v3, which I think, we've definitely not realized our vision for what the wallet can be yet, definitely. So, we have a lot coming. I mean, I think, you know, the world is moving away from seed phrases for sure, as are we. How can you make something completely foolproof and super simple? I think, especially in Dogecoin, I would say a lot of the people onboarding into Dogecoin have never touched crypto whatsoever. I think I call it like the gateway crypto for a lot of users. And so we have to make that experience way simpler, which we've kind of done in the new version. Beyond that, I think we're kind of preparing for the future that, you know, most of us hosting this conference are working on, which is, you know, more use cases for Dogecoin applications, et cetera. So, I would say there's a lot of really cool features coming and a, you know, much better wallet experience. But like the two things we're focused on is one, how do you onboard someone who knows absolutely nothing about crypto and make it foolproof? Because I can tell you, no matter how many warnings you put in a wallet or no matter how hard you try, you're never going to convince everyone or never going to be able to explain to everyone quickly how to back up something, how a seed phrase works, et cetera. So, you know, foolproof social sign-in with multi-factors for security, that kind of stuff is coming. And then how do we make it really easy for people to use apps, which are coming to Dogecoin soon? That's kind of the focus, but lots coming.
Oh, that's really a lot, you know, because when I look at the wallet, you know, it's fast, it's easy to use, and a lot of my community, you know, they are all Doge lover, you know, and then of course they are your wallet user as well, you know, and again the same question that came up, you know, I was doing a poll, you know, within my own community of about 13,000 people. You know, they are excited that I'm speaking to you and we are having a conversation, and then the first thing they asked me, you know, what is Doge OS, man? You know, is it something like EOS in the past? I was like, nah, I'm not sure, man. You know, let me ask Jordan a bit more. You know, tell us a bit more about the OS. You know, what should we be expecting right now, and then what should we be expecting, you know, in the future?
For sure. So I'm not going to go too deep into the tech, especially we've had a lot of tech talks today.
And that's what DevCon, man. That's what DevCon.
Yeah, I mean, DogeOS, we're calling it the app layer for Dogecoin. I mean, our vision is apps on and using Dogecoin. And I guess I'll kind of talk about like the high level of why. I mean, I talk to a lot of people, they're like, well, it's perfect. Doge is perfect. Why do anything else? I think that, you know, Doge is an awesome meme, but there's two things that I've seen. And one is that, first of all, I would say more than half the industry is not aware that Dogecoin is a blockchain at all. People think, oh, meme coin, okay, it must be ERC20, it's been around for a while. I don't think that Dogecoin is being valued as a blockchain, the second biggest proof of work currency in the world. And I don't think anyone's even kind of aware of the potential of Dogecoin as a blockchain. And then the second thing I think is culturally, Dogecoin users want to use their Dogecoin. They want to have fun, they want things to do. You know, trading on centralized exchanges might be fun for some, but the core Doge community, that's not where they're like getting their fun. It's really by being part of the community, having Dogecoin and finding ways to spend it. So, you know, there are ways to spend it. There's coffee shops accepting Doge. We have our friends in the US at Williamsburg Pizza who, you know, rolled out Dogecoin payments to their entire chain and then have started onboarding other businesses across the country to use their Doge point of sale solution. So that's cool. But I think there's just like more fun to be had. Ultimately, there's more fun to be had. So we're just trying to build an app ecosystem on Dogecoin, bring a world of like cool stuff to Doge, and not like copy paste stuff from every other blockchain and be like, oh, cool, it's on Doge now. I think Dogecoin succeeded because it was so unique and fun. I think Web3 is lacking a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of like money first, user experience second approach to building. And I think we can just, follow the guiding principles of Doge, which is kind of just about the culture and the fun. How can we get the right type of builders? How can we bring the right type of apps? How can we create a Web3 ecosystem that is like more awesome, more fun, more approachable to all of the users who come in who know nothing about crypto? I mean, I would say almost half our users have never touched crypto before, like of our new downloads of our wallet. And so, what's their experience going to be? It's not like, okay, download the wallet, buy some Doge, go on a centralized exchange, like start gambling. I think we can really show the potential of crypto, the potential of decentralized applications in a better way. So I would say, this is the vision for DogeOS. Like, let's make crypto more fun.
Well, okay, that's a good reply. Since we are talking about a bit of on tech and so forth, I've seen different layer one friends who is in the audience. Why would they want to build on Dogecoin? What are the key benefits? Are we looking at just pure community? Or maybe they have a good legacy. Why would people want to build on Dogecoin? Can we market a little bit better and a little bit sexier so that people can just come on board and play with us?
Yeah, I think that there's a few reasons why people want to build on Dogecoin and why other blockchain ecosystems are trying to take Dogecoin and bring it into their ecosystems. Everyone sees, oh, look, there's $40-50 billion in liquidity sitting there. Hey, there must be an opportunity. But I think that the real opportunity why someone wants to build on Dogecoin is to really tap into the Dogecoin community. It is the biggest community, definitely of meme coins and, maybe one of the top communities in the entire crypto industry. But it's one that is not being activated at all. I think the Dogecoin community is somewhat isolated from Web3 and all of the applications, development, stuff that's going on. And I think the opportunity to tap into the Dogecoin community and build stuff just for them is way bigger than anyone realizes. I think, we've seen this also with the wallet. People say, why would you make a Dogecoin only wallet? I don't get it. Well, why don't you just make a wallet that has every currency? Well, the reality is we made a Dogecoin only wallet and all these Dogecoin users love it and they use it and they want to participate, they want to help, they want to spread it. And I think you can see the same thing if you're an app builder and you want to build on Dogecoin. You're going to see an incredible amount of support. And even some of the, we have KOLs, influencers in the Dogecoin space, but they're not crypto KOLs in that they're not taking money to promote meme coins. They're not taking sponsorships from other crypto companies. They're hugely famous. They interact with Elon Musk on X. They never shill a single thing. But they want to support Dogecoin ecosystem projects. They want to support cool stuff that's using and built on Dogecoin. So I think that's an underappreciated opportunity. You can talk about the liquidity, you can talk about unlocking, DeFi on Doge, which I do think is awesome. But I think the most powerful force is the Dogecoin community, and that's kind of the only way to really get them.
Would it? I'm not sure. There's a foundation, right? But the foundation doesn't really work like what the rest of the layer ones are doing. Am I right?
Yeah. So Dogecoin is basically, we say it's the most democratized currency because there's absolutely nobody in charge and nobody behind it. There's a foundation, but it's, they created this foundation later. They did not create Dogecoin, like when you typically hear about a blockchain foundation. So I would say it's the best thing about Dogecoin that's why we love it. It's so decentralized, so democratized. Nobody's in charge.
But would there, so some of these projects who are trying to build on different chains, the reason is also because so-and-so chain is giving out grants, right? Giving out money for them to build and so forth. Do you think such a step will happen within the Dogecoin ecosystem?
I think that ultimately, yes, most blockchains are giving grants to entice developers. Personally, I think that the potential to be realized by tapping into the Dogecoin community is worth more than a grant. Ultimately, our goal is to kind of like create ways to activate the Dogecoin community to support your project, create opportunities for all of these really engaged, passionate people in the Dogecoin community to maybe get involved in projects. Some of them are developers, some of them are marketers, some of them are influencers, some of them are out there on the streets onboarding businesses. These people want to be more active in Doge. So I think, my view of like grants, etc. I would love to give grants to like indie developers who will have a cool idea and want to build something. I don't want to compete with some other blockchain to give, really expensive grants to some team just to like get them on our chain. I think it's sort of, if you don't want to build in the Dogecoin ecosystem, it's probably your loss. And I think, already, we have not launched DogeOS. We've only been teasing it online, but we have a ton of developer interest already from people who kind of do recognize the opportunity in Doge. So I would say it's a challenge for Dogecoin, though. Like the fact that there is no foundation with hundreds of millions of dollars to just be like, hey, promote the ecosystem. It's like the best thing about it, but it's a challenge. You have meme coins with hundreds of millions of dollars and they can just do whatever. They can just throw events like this every day. There doesn't have to have an ROI or anything like that. But I think like that's the power of Doge, like the people coming together. I mean, people are willing to support cool projects. People are willing to work. People are willing to volunteer. People are willing to donate. I mean, the community crowdfunded a statue of Kabosu the dog in Japan. There is a lot of potential. So
I 100% agree on this, because I do see some of these grants and money that's given to some of this project is just going to kill the layer one a lot faster than it should be. That's my take. Maybe the next question that I have in mind would be, my tweets, right? So most of the time, I do not believe in meme coins having a utility, right? I always mention that, it should be community first, then products later, How does, first of all, do you think this mindset of mine is okay? And then the second part is, how is the Dogecoin and DogeOS, since it's a utility, moving along with this ideology, What do you have in mind?
Yeah, I hear Andy say this a lot on his spaces when people start talking about utility. He's like, I don't want to hear about utility. This is about meme coins. I would say that use cases is not necessarily the same as utility. Dogecoin already has utility. It's money. Its utility is money. It's a faster, cheaper Bitcoin. It's kind of got inherent utility like that. I would say, our goal is to deliver use cases. I don't think that use cases necessarily means like we're trying to put utility into Dogecoin itself. I think everyone here, who's spoken so far, like the whole theme is that we're not changing Dogecoin. Dogecoin is Dogecoin, but I think use cases for Dogecoin is important. And I think, in an industry where everything is pretty much driven by gambling and speculation right now, how do we survive hundreds of years? Like everything can't always go up. Eventually people lose their money and lose interest. I think, more real, fun, awesome use cases is the future. So I would say, use cases are not necessarily, it is utility, but it's not, adding utility to Doge itself. Doge has its utility. Let's give people, a way to use it and have fun with it.
Do you see DogeOS as a utility, or how do you see it?
I see it as enabling use cases. It doesn't change Dogecoin. Is DogeOS utility? Yes. Is QED utility? Yes. Like we're providing utility for developers kind of to tap into the Dogecoin ecosystem. But ultimately, the theme is the same. What we've seen in the Doge community is that people really want to use their Dogecoin. The core community pushes the narrative that Dogecoin is money and it's meant to be spent, which is very different from, kind of just like buy Bitcoin, hold it forever, never touch it. And so giving people a way to use it, I think is really important because people want to use it. And we've even, added games into our app, or we had a social fi in the MyDoge wallet at a time. And within hours of announcing something like that on Twitter, everyone's in the wallet trying it out. People are happy to spend Dogecoin to play something, to try something. So I think we got to tap into that and get Dogecoin being used as money more, because right now, the number of actual on-chain Dogecoin transactions that is being used as money for like peer-to-peer payments or something is not that high. most Dogecoin activity is just speculation trading on centralized exchanges. So I think like fulfilling the one utility of Dogecoin, which is like money, the second, or maybe the one utility is fun and the second is money. We're just kind of tapping into that. Like, let's let people have more fun and actually use the money.
Yeah, sure. Let's use the money. That's how things work. Something that I have in mind. This. I got to know the wallet through CBO, which is online, and many people would ask, hey, what's Jordan's relationship with CBO? Is he going to push, the wallet, and what is the actual relationship? You want to share something along that line?
Yeah, and that's Doge designer, to be clear, like username CBDoge.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he's family. He's the first guy who joined our team at MyDoge 3 years ago. I would say now, one of my best friends and pretty much part of the family. So yeah, I mean, he's the designer at MyDoge, at DogeOS. Really excited for the future. I mean, he's sort of shy if I talk about him too much, but I think like most people here have probably seen him on X. I think he's going to be tweeting a lot more about Dogecoin very soon now that the election's over. So I think we can look forward to that.
Okay, that would be super duper cool, man. Dogecoin is the big brother, of all the meme coins. And of course, recently you see a lot of different other meme coins, rising ones like Nero, for example. And then of course Shiba is also trying to do their own thing and so forth. What kind of lessons do you think you can offer to all these younger brothers, or siblings, from a Dogecoin perspective?
I think the important thing that you can learn from Dogecoin is that when Dogecoin was created, no one even knew that you could get rich creating a meme coin. So it was truly just made as a joke. I mean, it's actually kind of making fun of crypto. It's almost like a cruel joke to show like how dumb it is and how easy it is for anyone to create a coin. The fact that it was made without the intention of making money, but also without even knowing it was possible to make so much money, I think is why it succeeded. But I also think it's like almost impossible for that to ever happen again. After Dogecoin blew up, everyone realized, oh, you can make a lot of money by starting a meme coin. And probably no one ever since has done what the Dogecoin founders did, which was, sell all their Dogecoin very early and walk away. So, the lessons to be learned are like, focus on fun and culture and community. But it's certainly hard to do now that we've seen what happens. I mean, what happens literally every day when people launch new meme coins that blow up. But I think, there's a reason that Dogecoin has stood the test of time because there's like a real OG community. And it's not just an OG community of people who got rich off Doge and now they love it. To be honest, it's people who just have fun and love the meme. And I think, if anything, anyone can learn anything from Dogecoin, it's like you got to focus on the fun. To be honest, there's a lot of people in the community who bought at 70 cents during the Elon SNL moment and are still super active community members, even though they're down, like 80+%, because they're having fun. So there's something to be learned is like you can have fun while losing money and it's still fun. I think maybe that's the best lesson.
Okay, let's not lose too much money right now because it's a bull market, yeah. So I think based on what I see, really, the Dogecoin usage, it can be a lot higher, because we are all here very, very, bullish about how the coin is going and so forth. Maybe one last question, or maybe two last questions. I saw my community asking questions as well, so two last questions. So, what kind of price prediction are we looking at the end of this year, man, brother? Non-financial advice, all right?
69 cents.
At least. I mean, yeah, I don't generally like to even talk about the price or advise people to buy Dogecoin.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I would say everyone I know that are like hardcore degen traders, etc. I'm really not. I'm like an unlucky trader. Like if I open my phone right now and put like every dollar I had into Dogecoin, I'm going to crash the chart. I promise you. So I try not to predict the price. I can say
let's do it. I can buy it more, right?
I can say, I mean, I would be, everyone that I know who's like more into the space does believe there's going to be new all-time highs for everything this cycle. I mean, Bitcoin just hit an all-time high. Dogecoin almost hit a new all-time high in market cap. I think that's something important to look at versus the price. But I mean, I'm not going to predict. I'm not going to tell anyone when to buy.
Okay. I'll take the figure from the audience then. I'll take the figure from the audience. One very last question, for those who did not have a single Dogecoin right now, what is your super advice to them right now?
I mean, yeah, I think there's a lot of memes that the community posts, and it's like, oh, someone's sad, and then it's like, here's one Dogecoin, and then they're happy. All you need is one Dogecoin. I mean, there's probably a lot of people in this room who actually don't have any. It's like all you need is one to be part of the community, follow some accounts in the community, realize that like there's years and years of culture and history here, and no one is really. No one's like tweeting to pump the price. Now, of course, it's like bull market. Maybe there's going to be a lot more price talk. But I would say, get some Doge, participate, tip each other Doge on X. That's something our wallet enables, and that's really, like you said at the beginning. I was doing this too. Like I'm so used to tipping 420 Doge or 69 Doge, these meme numbers. Like everyone I meet, everywhere I go, and I'm like, oh, this is actually a lot more money than it used to be. Yeah. It used to be like $2 or $3 is now like $30 or $40, and I was like, okay, I gotta watch the numbers that I'm tipping. But I would say, yeah, get a little Doge. I mean, if you just go on Twitter and you're like, hey, I'm new to Doge, like I want to experience Doge, people on Twitter are gonna send you some Doge for free. People want to welcome everyone to the community. So I would say, yeah, just get some Doge and start kind of like feeling out the vibes. Maybe it'll be worth, your one Doge will be $1 someday. We'll see.
Oh, it could be. It could be. And I really wish that is going to happen, because the number of billionaires around me would be, wow, plenty, man. Plenty of billionaires around me. So I think that's cool. The last question actually that I had was, I was scrolling through my Telegram group. They were asking, are you from a Doge OS perspective, are you going to build more utility on the Telegram itself? Because I see that a lot of users wanted to see more of such features, because it's more convenient for them, so forth and so on. Maybe the last question, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a Telegram wallet integration coming, and I do think like Telegram has sort of started this journey
right now,
Yeah, I mean, it's picking up, but I think it started the journey of like more fun stuff, like fun, casual games, things like that. I think it's a perfect fit for Doge. I mean, to be honest, I think a lot of things are a perfect fit for Dogecoin that maybe didn't need another blockchain or another currency. But the problem is you could not build on Doge. There were no smart contracts on Doge. There was no way to do it. I think, Dogecoin is probably going to be the native currency of X, and if X starts to have the games and mini apps and things like that, it's likely going to be on Doge. But I think Telegram could be running on Doge too if everyone in this room who's working on frontier technology for Dogecoin. If we had done it like a few years ago, I think maybe there wouldn't be a Tom blockchain. Everyone would be having fun on Doge. So I would say, yeah, it's definitely something that we're focused on. I think the best thing for a new user is something they already understand. So a really cool, fun little game, whether it's using Doge, whether you can win Doge, whether it's Doge themed, whether you can win Doge t-shirts, like little things like that people can just try it out and start having fun. It's probably the best like new user experience to crypto. So yeah, it's definitely something we're working on.
100% agree with Jordan. If you do not have a Dogecoin, please look for him. He's going to give you one. All right. And I'm actually very, very happy with the current situation of the market. Elon serving, as a main guy with the Doge department, and also X possibly going to use Dogecoin as the preferred payment, maybe. I think those things are all very, very nice to have, and I think it's going to be 69 very soon.
And beyond.
Yeah, all right. So I think we will end the session now, and then happy to have chats with everybody. Let's Dogecoin to the moon, bro.
Yeah, all right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for coming. Doge to the moon.
So please enjoy the best panelists for today.
Hi everyone, I'm March from Stakefish and Antpool, today's moderator. And today's topic is like discussing CK technology, how to apply in POW chains, and like what is the significance about it. So we have three honorable guests, like they are all expert and knowledgeable in the CK technology space, with James, like Bobbins and also Carter from different projects they're working on. So before we go into the discussion, maybe we just invite them to introduce them one by one. Maybe start with James first.
Yeah, so I'm the chief scientist at Nexus. We're a company that is trying to bring verifiable computation to internet scale. So we're building a CKVM proven network, and we're hoping to reach the terahertz and beyond performance of the CKVM.
That's awesome.
Hi everyone, I'm Bobbin. I'm one of the co-founders of Polygon, which is like a scaling solution for Web3, Ethereum specifically, and like I'm specifically leading a Polygon Maiden project, which is kind of a protocol that focuses specifically on client-side proofs, where you can prove transactions and things, by yourself without having to have network re-execute them.
So I'm Carter, and this microphone doesn't work, but it will right now. And I'm the founder and CEO of QED, and we are a ZK scaling solution for proof-of-work chains like Bitcoin and DogeCon.
Thanks for all the introduction. So maybe let's go into a little bit technical discussion. Maybe try to make it simpler because I also want to learn as well. I'm not a technical person. Yeah. So from your practical perspective, like what are CK proof and how does it apply and like being meaningful to the blockchains? Yeah. It's a question for everyone. Maybe James first.
Sure. Yeah. So zero knowledge proof is basically a way to make something verifiable, right? And if it's zero knowledge, it means that you can do that with privacy as well. But succinctness is also a core property of these proofs, that you can do it very compactly, right? So it's amazing that verifying something can be so much cheaper than actually finding out from scratch whether something is true or not.
Yeah, so this is what zero knowledge proofs are. I think I may have some an extreme opinion, because I think zero knowledge proofs are essential for blockchain scaling. My personal story is that I learned about Bitcoin early on, I think 2012 or something like that. I didn't really get into the technical aspect of it, but then I realized it's kind of going up and it's something significant. And I read the Bitcoin white paper around 2016, 2017, and I was like, this actually never going to scale. I don't know how it's going to work. And then once I learned about ZK proofs, this is kind of when it actually clicked in my mind. And now I was like, okay, now I know how we can make this work at a global scale where people can get to mass adoption. Without ZK proofs, I don't even know if we can get to mass adoption.
Yeah, for sure. So of course I agree with those two things. And I just want to emphasize to everyone who's non-technical. Has anyone ever made an Ethereum transaction? Right? So when you made that Ethereum transaction, come on, Bob, I know you made it. Yeah. Every time you make an Ethereum transaction, every single Ethereum node all around the world has to execute that transaction. So if you call some smart contract code on Ethereum, every single server that's running the Ethereum software is also running your transaction, which is a really big problem, because if a lot of people want to make transactions, well, we're going to need a really big server, right? And it's going to make it really hard to run an Ethereum node. And if it's really hard and expensive to run an Ethereum node because everyone wants to use it at the same time, we're going to need a real beefy server, then the network is going to become more centralized. And if the network becomes more centralized, then why even have a blockchain in the first place, right? So I totally agree with what you guys said. ZK is the only way where we can scale a blockchain without reducing the decentralization that brought us to blockchain in the first place.
Cool. Thanks for the elaboration, Carter. I think it resonates very well with every one of us. We use Ethereum every day. Okay. So maybe another question is how to apply CK proof or CK technology on non-smart contract chains like Bitcoin or Dogecoin. Yeah, maybe James can share a little bit about what you think.
Yeah, so I think we're now seeing with Doge, right? So like an example of the power that it gives you, and I think it's very interesting to see that all you need is the verification, right? You actually don't need a general purpose computation chain. You just need a chain to be able to verify stuff, and then you can do all these kind of applications because you can just do all the interesting stuff off-chain, and then you can use proofs to put it on-chain, verify it on-chain. So I think, I don't see sort of like any barriers that you could take the same kind of tricks and apply them on other proof-of-work chains.
Cool. Maybe Bobbins and Carter can talk a little bit about the benefits as well.
Yeah, I think maybe even thinking more generally, like in my mind, there's like several ways in which you can apply ZK to like blockchain design. I think one of the approaches is that you basically say, okay, we're not going to change anything fundamentally. We're just going to like help with this re-verification. So we just, you execute block once, you prove it, and then everybody else just verifies the block. And this helps, but it also, doesn't help entirely because you still like there is a node somewhere that needs to execute all the transactions at least once. Now, this is kind of the first level, and the next level I would say is okay, you enable like primitives in core protocol that allow you to build layer 2s or something like that, where you kind of say, okay, now I can have multiple parties execute, kind of transactions, and then they just send proofs to the chain. And then, like what I personally believe it, you can actually push it further to the user and say, okay, like now, by the way, the previous one is called rollups on Ethereum, or like, the rollup protocols, or like Validium protocols or whatever. But then you can push it forward and say, well, why don't users execute it? And then it not only gives you scalability, but it also gives you another essential property that ZKPs give you that I also believe you need for mass adoption, which is privacy. Like where now if I execute my own transaction, I don't need to send the data of this transaction, underlying data. I don't need to ask somebody to execute the code. So I can also maintain my own, nobody needs to know my balance and things like that. So in my mind, there's like different levels of how you can apply ZKPs, and they have different benefits. I think in many ways it makes sense to like apply them on all three levels, but it is like, use case dependent.
Yeah, and just a little bit from the POW perspective. Has anyone here ever tried to, look at the Bitcoin core code base? Satoshi was a great visionary, but not the best C++ programmer, right? These older chains, like maintaining them is very difficult. And I want to shout out to Patrick and a bunch of the other people that are maintaining Doge. Like, they had a really hard nut kind of to work with in the beginning, and have done an amazing job maintaining it. But adding all this additional smart contract functionality is really tough and requires consensus-breaking changes. So like the fact that, as Jens was saying, like we kind of figured out that if we can store data on chain and then verify a ZKP, that gives us, just having those two pieces gives us enough to implement general purpose computation with ZKPs. So yeah, like with ZKPs, we can turn these chains that used to only be able to send Bitcoin from one person to another, or send Dogecoin from one person to another, to have the full functionality of Ethereum without having to add all that consensus-breaking logic to the Dogecoin or Bitcoin core code bases.
That's very cool to know. Yeah, so that like using CK can basically like adding more scalability and also like different kinds of like functionalities to Dogechain, but not not consuming a lot of data or storage on the core chain itself. Yeah.
I think it's kind of like in China, everyone uses like their phone for payment, right? And in China, there wasn't really that big period of credit cards. China was like still developing when credit cards were first kind of coming out and stuff. So China just kind of skipped to the good stuff, right? And I think Bitcoin and Dogecoin are kind of skipping right to the good stuff, right? They're skipping right to ZK instead of having this transitional period where instead of the L1s being like the computation layer, it's just immediately we're verifying proofs here.
That's kind of the philosophy of keeping the base layer as simple as possible, and you allow experimentation, allow like extended functionality on different layers.
Yeah.
Yep, that's awesome. Yeah, so the next question is for James and Carter. Yeah, so what is persistence and what is the importance of persistence in the context of blockchain, like Dogecoin have very small block size, and maybe the transaction speed is not very high as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so succinctness is that you can prove something with extremely small proofs, right? So the surprising thing is that the proofs can be much, much smaller than the complexity, the size of computation and instance and statement that you're trying to prove, right? So you can really compress down to sort of like the very core of like what does it mean that this statement is true. And if you're a cryptographer and you're developing proofs, right, the really difficult thing of developing a proof is to come up with a way, how can I actually compress succinctness so much that, you know, I can get it from just these kind of few bytes. We're talking about hundreds of bytes for the small proofs, right? And then interesting, once you have succinctness, then typically the zero knowledge part is something that comes for free, right? Because information theoretically, when you have a proof that's really, really, really small, it cannot contain and leak that much information about the witness, right? So that is sort of like a part that, you know, you can typically do massage it a bit, and then you also have a zero knowledge proof.
Cool. How about Carter? Anything on
Yeah,
that?
so obviously Jens is the king of succinctness. He is Mr. Succinct. For us in the POW space, succinctness is extremely important. I don't know if anyone remembers the block size. My bad. But a long time ago, when Bitcoin kind of went through this period of angst and conflict within the community, I'm sure our friends over at F2 Pool remember it very well, where a group of people wanted to expand the size of Bitcoin blocks so that it could scale more, right? They wanted to make bigger blocks that are like, what was 16 megabytes they wanted, right? And it caused such a damage and rift to the community, this lack of succinctness, that part of the community, a very large part, split off and made this thing called Bitcoin Cash. And then a scammer also split off and made something called Bitcoin SV, right? So, you know, got the joke, right? but yeah, anyways. But yeah, so like, lack of succinctness in the past literally split the Bitcoin community in two. It did incredible damage to the Bitcoin community. And with ZKPs, now we can get scalability and succinctness, and we're not stepping on anyone's toes or causing any conflicts. So thank you to the wonderful cryptographers on stage for the amazing work that they've done to heal the rift in the Bitcoin community and bring scalability to life. So thank you guys.
So you're predicting that they will merge back now and be friends?
No. But I don't think we'll have any more rifts or, God forbid, you know, forks because of succinctness, because now it's just such an easy problem to fix.
Yeah, so like from a non-technical perspective, I hear like there are lots of benefits like of succinctness and also about CKP as well. Yeah.
We can verify 1 million Bitcoin transactions. In a current Bitcoin block, we can verify 1 billion Dogecoin transactions without changing Dogecoin's block size or transaction size limits. And it's not going to interrupt the other transactions of the rest of the network. Isn't that, excuse my language, fucking magical? Right?
Super magical.
It's so magical.
Well, ZKPs are kind of magical technology, so.
It is.
That's cool. Our fans were adding a lot of fun to the CK topic to make it like very easy to understand. Yeah. So the next question for all is like for CKP based smart contract and also bridges, like what are the benefits compared to alternative like multi-sig or like OP optimistic roll-ups, etc. Yeah.
So I think the main benefit of using zero knowledge proofs is that you can inherit the safety of the chain that you're working on, right? And this is something that pressed on us in his presentation, right? That you're not changing the security of Dogecoin, you're actually getting the exact same security of Dogecoin. Right? This is under assumptions. The assumption is that the cryptographic assumptions you're building zero knowledge proofs on actually hold. Right? It's under the assumption that you have implemented it correctly and so forth. So I'm not saying it's completely free, right? But really at the core, in theory, you ought to be able to get the same safety as the chain you're operating on. And that's something you cannot get with the other models of security.
Yeah, I would say so. Like there are two main differences. I mean, probably maybe more than two, but if you compare, for example, against optimistic approaches, the first difference is that with ZKPs you rely only on math, and obviously, like assuming like no implementation bugs and things like that, you don't need to rely on crypto economic security, so to say, which is a fairly complex assumption to make, and it comes with a lot of caveats where you need to consider like who may be economically incentivized to do one thing versus another, how do you monitor the system. So with ZKPs you get kind of like simplicity in the way that you only trust into the math. The second aspect that you get is convenience, because of the crypto economic assumptions, you need to, for example, optimistic rollups on Ethereum always assume you have like 7 days before like these crypto economic games need to play out to make sure that it's safe, secure. With ZKPs, as soon as you verify it, it's correct. So you get both benefits, like basically, simpler system in some ways, and also more convenient system.
Yeah, just like I think you guys hit it right on the head. The key is when the parent chain, Dogecoin, gets finality, you get finality too, right? Versus who here likes to wait a week for their transactions to finish processing? We got anyone? Who loves waiting? Waiting for people to be able to know that they got their money successfully. Does anyone like giving their money to other people and trusting them? Who loves to just throw their money? Hey, I don't know you, I've never met you, you're some anonymous guys, you're probably all friends, but we're gonna trust you with my money. Anyone like to do that? And also on optimistic rollups, people need to be able to run these validator nodes, right? So we can't use that ZK scaling approach of like using like proof recursion and other techniques to basically scale the blockchain to the moon, right? If we want to scale an optimistic rollup to the moon, anyone who wants to validate the dang thing is going to need to have a supercomputer, right? So the number of people that can do it is small and it's not decentralized. So optimistic rollups, at QED we're very clear, we think it's a road to nowhere, but I know there are some great folks doing that, but just personal opinions, right?
I think at this point everybody believes that ZK is the way to go. It's just some people are kind of think it's going to take longer. Some people think it's going to take less time. And like I'm in a camp, for example, where I think at this point in time, there is no need to do something optimistic. You just go with ZK right away.
And the OP rules are kind of U-turning, right, already. Like we see them doing the U-turn and they're like, oh, we got some grants for some ZK stuff, right? Oh, let's do ZK fraud proofs, right? ZK is the future. Trust us. Or don't trust us.
Oh, you are the best sales for CK technology. Okay, I think let's move to our alpha section. I think we just want to know some updates about each project, what's the roadmap, etc. So maybe let's start with Bobin. Does Maiden has any plan to integrate with any POW chains like Dogecoin?
Yeah, so I mean, at this point, we're working kind of to get to the mainnet. So we're still not we're at the testnet right now. There is sort of a ton of other things that still needs to be built out. So our main goal is to get to mainnet. So to be honest, we're laser focused on getting that. I think in the future there is no reason why we can't explore other approaches. But at this point in time, we need to. We have basic things working already. You can send transactions on Maiden. You can do local proofs on your computer. One of the big obstacles, for example, with local proofs is they need to be fast enough on the phone, right? You need to generate proofs of a transaction on your phone. And in many ways, when we talk about ZKPs, a lot of people think that you need these huge servers that run in the cloud that have half a terabyte of RAM and require 100 CPU cores to generate proofs. And this is what you need for some type of rollups where you try to let's say prove an EVM transaction, because EVM is not optimized for kind of ZKP friendliness and things like that. But on the client side, you need something different. So there is a lot of work that we've done, but there is a ton of left. And then I'm super excited about the work that is being done in terms of how you can add ZK proofs to other non-Ethereum chains which don't have this Turing complete smart contracts and things like that. And I think in the future, no reason why we can't explore it.
That's really awesome. Really looking forward to it. Yeah, and for James, do you have any plans for Nexus, like doing anything with Dogecoin?
So we're doing indeed. We've just recently announced a partnership with our friends from QT Protocol. And I mean, we're building a CKVM, right? That's going to be very powerful and running on a proven network, right? You can just imagine that sort of like feeding directly into Dogecoin now, right? And running all sorts of things.
Cool. There are many great builders doing things on Dogecoin, so these are exciting times. Yeah.
These guys are literally like the gods of the ZK world. I want everyone to understand that.
I mean, I would say
And they're
this
here
is.
at DogeCon.
I am much lesser.
No, we got two guys.
Awesome. And for Carter, what is QED building, and what do you plan to do with Dogecoin, and just maybe share some alpha with the community?
For sure. So we're laser focused on building application execution layers. We call ourselves an execution layer for proof of work chains. We just want to make sure that we can get all that wonderful smart contract functionality, DeFi, games, the works, onto Dogecoin and Bitcoin fully trustlessly, right? And we're also working on some local proving, Goldilocks gang, right? So we're working on local proving and also scaling up these systems so that we can do things like credit card scale payments on Dogecoin, as well as some order book DEX applications with some of our partners, including Allbank and BTSC. We're building a lot of cool stuff. Soon you'll be able to send Dogecoin for even cheaper to your friends and use DeFi, pump.fun perhaps even for the degens, and transact on or non-custodial order book DEXs straight from Dogecoin.
It sounds like things happening on Ethereum can basically happen on
Oh yeah,
Doge
we're
as
gonna
well.
totally eat their lunch. Shots fired, right? Welcome to the DevCon invasion. Proof of work is back.
Cool. And this is a question for everyone. What's the role for miners in the CKP world, and what's the benefit, from a future ecosystem? Yeah.
So maybe I can hit that one off. So miners are essential for ZK proof mining, even if we're proving our transactions locally, like we do on QED. Because at the end of the day, what we really want out of the proofs, even though we also love privacy, is the succinctness. So with proof recursion, people need to be generating proofs which verify proofs, and I'm sure you guys are planning on doing this too. But we build a tree of proofs that culminate in one single succinct proof that is equivalent, if you verify, to verifying all the transactions that occurred in the block. Recursive proofs are relatively expensive. We use, I know we're using some, relatively cheaper, non-MSM based crypto systems that are easier for proof recursion, but at the end of the day, we need to have very high throughput, and we need lots of computational power, and for that we're going to need miners. So yeah, being in the proof of work ecosystem as a ZKP project just makes sense out of the box. And we want to call it proof of useful work, because we're not only just trying to find a hash value, we're actually, every time we're lending our computational power to the network, we're also creating value for the users. So I think it's kind of like POW 2.0. Is what I don't know, what are you guys' thoughts?
I would actually be curious to hear you elaborate a little bit about proof of useful work. So you're thinking about making the work be directed towards.
So the work that you're doing is taking multiple proofs, and in the case of QED, we use a Merkle tree to represent our state, right? So I have a proof that is proved that some node within the Merkle tree has legally updated as a result of transactions from one state to a new state, right? And then I have another proof which has proved that a different part of the Merkle tree has updated from a new state, from its old state to a new state. And then I generate a proof which recursively verifies those two proofs, along with two delta Merkle proofs that link them to their nearest common ancestor within the Merkle tree. So basically, the useful work that you're doing is you're taking two proofs which prove different spans of the state tree have updated from their previous values to new values, and generating a new single proof which proves an even larger span of the Merkle tree has successfully updated, with the goal, of course, of proving that the root of the tree has updated. So it's like, you're not just using your power to compete in a zero-sum game with your opponents. You're not only competing, you're basically competing to provide a better service to the users. So I think that's why it's like a paradigm shift worthy of the POW 2.0. Although I'm sure other people have already coined the term POW 2.0, so maybe it's 3 or 4 or 5.
I think there is another useful application which probably will require some research, but there are different proving systems, and not all the proving systems are as succinct as 200 bytes. You have proving systems where proof sizes are in kilobytes and sometimes in hundreds of kilobytes. And if you think like you want to send a transaction which has a proof that is a couple let's say dozen kilobytes, even if you scale this to, like, let's say 10K TPS, you're sending a huge amount of data through the network. And it would be interesting if you can aggregate proofs locally, compute a single kind of recursive proof, so that you kind of, as the transactions propagate through the network, you kind of compress the proofs further and further, so you don't need to send this data throughout the network and actually compress the bandwidth. There are, of course, some open research questions there of how exactly you would do it.
And shout out to Mina, of course. We like Mina. Mina has done great strides here as well.
Yeah. So, like, I think, you know, if, let's say, there are these miners that do proof aggregation, for example, they could do it like in different parts and like help with transaction propagation as well.
Yeah, that's good to know. Miners are like an important part of the CKP world. Yeah. Very nice. Yeah. So maybe a final question to wrap up the whole conversation, right? Yeah. So like, what can we expect maybe from a builder perspective or from a normal user perspective, the future of CKP in like POW chains? Like, what can we envision or expect? Yeah.
I mean, from a builder standpoint, hopefully they don't even need to think about ZKPs. They just like do things like code as usual and can write smart contracts, and behind the scenes it gets proven. Like, hopefully, if we do our jobs correctly, the builder does not need to know much about ZKPs.
Yeah, I think that's the like greatest level, right? Like, we always say that we want the average user to use blockchain without knowing that's blockchain, right? So this is the same for CKP on Dogecoin.
I think local proving is also very special for that, because it lets us be sort of VM agnostic. So on QED, like, we support verifying MyDoge proofs, Groth 16 proofs, a bunch of different others that we can like recursively verify to our layer. So it really gives you a lot of flexibility. But yeah, I think the future of ZK on POW is just, first of all, everything on Ethereum, but on Dogecoin and Bitcoin, and more secure. That's the first thing. And on Dogecoin, of course, more fun as well. And in addition, all of these applications that just make sense with Dogecoin, because it's the greatest meme of all time, they're gonna suddenly appear. And it's probably not gonna come from us. We're building platforms. But once you build a great platform and you have a great existing community, magical things happen. And I think this Doge community, which is the best community in crypto, I always emphasize that. That's why we're here. That's why we did this. When we give them the tools, I expect them to do great things, and I'm sure they will.
That's awesome. Yeah. So best tech and best community. That's the conclusion.
Dogecoin to the moon.
Dogecoin to the moon. Thanks, everyone. Like, thanks for your time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. We love F2Pool. We love F2Pool.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys.
Everyone, please welcome all the panelists here.
Or do you want, I can do the side. I can do the side. Or yeah, sure. Wow. Is that supposed to get a mic? I mean, do you want? I mean, I think that's not a mic here.
Check. Check.
Okay, let me get my notes up. So hi everyone, welcome to our developer ecosystem panel on how do we actually make Doge ecosystem strong again. So my name is Jay, I'm the president of Stanford Blockchain Club. We're a student community of basically students and researchers interested in blockchain at Stanford University. I also do investments at Pantera Capital, which is a big firm in Silicon Valley. I wanted to introduce our panelists, so let's go ahead. Let's go with this side.
Yeah, sure. I'm Scott, co-founder of Bitcoin, involved in fund this for the last year before it worked, and deeply passionate about the sort of broader history of the Dogecoin community. It's actually funny enough, the first thing that got me into crypto in like 2014, I think it was, maybe when they were doing the NASCAR thing. And I think that like one of the things maybe that I'll just like probably get to is like I think that Ethereum is a really engaging fun community, and I'd like to see those two communities intersect and engage more.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, also shout out Ethereum a little bit too. I'm kind of a neat guy too. I'm Austin Griffith. I founded the Build Guild. We are a DAO focused on developer education, mostly in the EVM world, but some ZKs and some other stuff. We run Speedrun Ethereum and BuildGuild.com, and we're focused on developer education, just teaching people how to build cool on-chain apps.
Nice. So I'm Groth. I run a company called Groth. We do Atom Abstraction SDK mostly. And I'm the president of Ethereum France, which is a non-profit creating events on monthly basis, translating technical paper to French. We run an event called the ETC that happens every year, and we've been onboarding and helping the Ethereum system for a while now. And so, yeah, super excited to be here and share my experience with Dogecoin and Ethereum.
Brussels or Paris next year? Neither.
South of France.
Okay. Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah. And Patrick as well, joining us via Zoom, so yeah.
Hi guys. So sorry I couldn't be here. I'm recovering from a back injury, so I didn't look forward to the flight. Anyway, so I'm Patrick. I'm a Dogecoin core maintainer. I've done that for over a decade. And I was introduced by Dogecoin by finding that a bunch of tests were working on Dogecoin core. And since then, from one thing came another, and well, it's been an interesting decade.
Yeah, that's amazing. So my first question will be for Patrick. So what does the Dogecoin ecosystem what does the Dogecoin developer ecosystem look like today? What do you think are some of the biggest challenges that it might face?
Okay. So first off, I think it's impossible to be fully inclusive on this. I don't think anyone has the full view, right? So because it's permissionless and a lot of people will just do something. Nevertheless, what I see is that the main things that get traction are either basic applications or the really fun stuff. So people just love goofing around with Dogecoin because, even though price varies and it's very volatile at the moment, most of the people are okay, not much to lose, if you lose a couple of Doge, so be it. So people do the most fun stuff, just because, there's not so much at stake. Of course, it's very small. There was a time where there was almost nothing happening, and since 2020 it's been picking up a little bit. And I think that there's always been people making fun with Dogecoin, but what I see happening is like Jordan said earlier as well, if you give people a wallet, people are super happy with it and they want to test it and they want to play around with it and stuff. So you see this an increase of serious things like bridges. Most of them actually failed. I think the only one that's still really working is the Torchain one. And basically wallets is what you see today. So the main challenge is how can we enable and keep enabling people to have fun? I think that's the number one thing. For my part, that means keeping it running, right? So keeping it stable, making sure that, bugs get fixed, that security issues get fixed, that there's a way to have a healthy network. But I think besides that, yeah, we need way more tools, and I think that's like the main challenge. Like how can you get more tools? How can you get like more frameworks for people so that it's easy to develop something fun? Because if you have this fun idea, like it doesn't really matter what it is, but you want to have like interfaces that you can just plug into and not have to code like an entire platform.
Yeah, of course. I think definitely like Dogecoin's trait of being the OG meme coin is definitely its long-standing place in the entire lore of cryptocurrencies. So I guess my next question is going to be for Austin and Jerome. So Ethereum and the EVM ecosystem is by far, I would say, the most sophisticated developer ecosystem today. So as like core members of the Ethereum developer community, what do you think were the key success factors, and what can Dogecoin learn from the ETH community on this?
You're older than I am. You were here before I was, I think.
Come on. From my point of view,
I might be older. I don't mean to call you old. You're OG. You're OG.
No, the community resilience was a key success factor. That's something that you definitely get into the Dogecoin community. Very early on, the community was extremely inclusive. It didn't really matter which color you were, which whatever you like everybody was very welcome, because there was a huge project and a lot of people that wanted to commit and give a little bit of the time making this project a success was very, very welcome. I think one of the key factors of success of the Ethereum community was also the Ethereum Foundation, being extremely focused on pushing forward those ideas and pushing them very inclusively. Right now we arrive at a state where if you want to contribute to public good on Ethereum, you have multiple access to public funding for that, or the private public funding. Well, the foundation is one, Bitcoin is one, different projects are also funding public goods on Ethereum, and that's definitely helping people that want to contribute initially find a way into this ecosystem, discuss with the other developers that may use their tools. And furthermore, at some point, maybe build a business on that, or work full-time on that, or become researcher on that. And that's our community snowballing into something that's bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and looking less weird from the outside. And suddenly, we arrive at Bangkok, and we have 12,000 people coming to the conference, and a lot of interesting side events at the same time. And this inclusivity was, for me, the biggest factor of success. And having this inclusivity being having some synergies with the foundation and other public funding was the key thing.
Yeah, so like leadership, not just EF, but also Vitalik. Like he's just a cool dude. Like I just want to hang out with him, right? And then I love the leadership thing, but I also think that like the inclusivity is kind of the main. Like you'll have dudes show up that will be highly technical and they'll be wearing like a unicorn stuffy outfit, and everyone's totally fine with that. Like that's totally just cool, and they just show up and ship some contracts and it's really cool. It's like inclusivity I love. Leadership, also the technology is freaking sweet. Like whenever I first learned about like flash loans, or even today I deployed a contract on Base live in front of a bunch of people, and I knew that the way I was deploying it, it could get attacked, but I didn't think that someone would attack it, and it got attacked instantly on stage. And that was just, I got goosebumps. It was just super fun. I just loved it. And so I think there's like that fun, magical tech part, there's the leadership part, and then there's that inclusivity part.
It's a dark forest when you find interesting mushrooms as well.
Ooh, sure. For sure. Yeah, so my next question is for Scott. So Gitcoin has been a great pioneer of this public goods funding and also for public infrastructure. So what type of mechanisms and what kind of like funding infrastructure should we actually need, and how should we go about doing that if we want to build a strong Dogecoin foundation?
I mean, I think that like it's just about funding cool shit. Like it's really like there's a lot of stuff that Ethereum funds that is just because it's an interesting idea, and there's a lot of available sources for people to just start building without having to worry about where 5,000, 10,000 is going to come from. Like they're meaningful amounts, especially depending on the region that you're in. It means that you can just build things and sort of have an expectation that you'll get some return from that, and keep going. We sort of started largely in an era where the Ethereum Foundation was still the largest grants provider. That was like in like 2017, 2018. They were like mainly the ones supporting, even projects like Uniswap in that era. And we came in to sort of support those from a community perspective. So with Quadratic Funding, just doing sort of community donations. And those projects are all pretty meaningful today. Things like Optimism, which was Plasma Group. It was like a research kind of collective before it was Optimism. Uniswap, which is, now still Uniswap, actually, or Unichain, I guess, now Unichain.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of just, I think, things like Build Guild that have, in my opinion, been really grassroots, that have built the way for this, and like the sort of Ethereum local communities, like in France and other regions, that like have been around for years and years. So, for me, it's just a matter of sort of consistent community effort and having some sort of pillars of the community, right? You want people that are going to always sort of stand up for it and sort of promote the values of it and build with folks in the same room, sometimes get their contracts to have in the process. And I guess I think Dogecoin can do the same, because there's lots of people that love the sort of mimetic power of it, and lots of people that actually had history with it. So I would love to see, maybe we can bring back Virgil's project of the Doge Ethereum Bridge, right? That would be like a pretty cool sort of like outcome, I think, in some future. But really, I think that's the big thing. It's just like, permissionlessness, as Patrick was talking about, consistency, and then just like, having fun.
Can I double down on something?
Yeah, for sure.
Point number one, shout out Virgil. Point number two, building on-chain. A lot of what we're doing when we're thinking about how we fund on-chain builders, it's kind of like this dog-fooding process of just trying something on-chain. You gave Build Guild a shout-out, I appreciate that. But one thing that we really did was just lock money up in a contract and let people withdraw as they turn in work. And you just turn in a string of work and pull out money, and you build up a reputation by doing that. And it worked out for a lot of us. We were able to fund hundreds of developers that way.
Yeah, in the very early days of Ethereum, we had something called BTC Relay, where we were able to prove a block header of Bitcoin, and then do something like, you're proving a block header of Bitcoin, so maybe it's going to be used to relay a transaction from Bitcoin to Ethereum, something like that. And then we realized that why not do that on Doge? That's what you mentioned, like Doge Relay. It was kind of a hard thing to prove because of the complexity of the verification. Now we have also means of doing that, potentially on L2, potentially on L3, potentially using QAD as well. And there was the Doge connection DAO at some point as well, where we wanted to build more interaction between the DogeCon chain and Ethereum. I think it started with a lot of appreciation of where Doge were coming from, like doing serious thing with non-seriousness in mind, like okay, let's explore and let's tackle those technological problems with an optimistic point of view. Now we've derived into a big ecosystem, and looking at Doge, we're like, yeah, well, let's revive that. I mean, at Osaka, we had the original Doge coming to show his Doge face. There's new connectors that can be brought into the two chains now.
Yeah, it's amazing. I guess like within the Dogecoin ecosystem right now, one of the hottest innovations is this idea of having zero-knowledge proofs. We just came off of a ZKP panel, so this is, I guess, super relevant. So I guess we have, for example, proposals such as the OP check Groth 16 verify, as well as these other ideas on how do you bring L2s and scalability to Dogecoin. So my question for Patrick would be, what are kind of your views on some of these emerging technologies that maybe originally were first applied in the Ethereum ecosystem, such as like ZKPs and stuff, and how do we bring that scalability and how we solve these technical challenges also on Dogecoin?
All right. So, well, in general, I think that adding a layer for zero-knowledge proofs will help with two things, right? So, because we're looking at like snarks or stars, doesn't really matter. You have the privacy element, but you also have the scaling element, right? So both sides are beneficial. On the privacy, technically you don't really have anything. If you ever, like in your chain of transactions, got in touch with a centralized exchange, your KYC and the entire world once that information leaks, your entire chain of spending is basically public. Because then your identity goes into the spending pattern. And I'm aware that there's billion-dollar businesses built on doing just that for law enforcement, which is awesome. But it's not cool if everyone can see every transaction that you make. So that's one part. The other part, I think that for scaling, if you truly want to scale, the problem is that I don't care if Alice sent 1 million Doge transactions. I don't care. What I want to know is that the total of Alice's transactions is 1 million, and that Alice had 1 million. So for a while, I think this started basically when Nina was running for the first time. Actually, maybe even from the white paper. We started discussing hey, we need to have a way to do some sort of roll-up so that, we don't have to calculate every transaction because you don't want to get all that data into your node. Not at a massive scale. So from that perspective, I think it's very promising. I think it will take a while to really get it production ready. I also think for L2, you're adding another layer of protocol, right? So you can't just say based on L1 code, hey, everything that's built on top of this is secure. You need to, basically you get an expansion of the scope of what you need to check, what you need to review, and you get an expansion of risk because now you have multiple protocols to worry about. Even in a relatively simple form, or what was meant to be simple was Lightning on Bitcoin. And we all know all these stages of problems that you run into when you start to have your state off chain. So the protocols need to be reviewed, and there are of course no guarantees, but I think the least we can do is enable the steps, right? Because if you enable the steps, then there's the opportunity for something to happen. And I think it's funny that everybody mentioned the bridge to Ethereum. So I spoke to Oscar, one of the guys that did part of that implementation for the original bounty that was there. And he was the one thing that's missing is having some zero knowledge proof or something so that we can cross that, because otherwise we have to keep on doing this. So it's funny that we're discussing, that we're having discussions about zero knowledge proofs, because that basically means that the obstacles that people ran into in the past can, be resolved now. So I think that's awesome.
That's amazing. So looking at kind of the application layer on Dogecoin, what are some of the types of user-facing applications that you guys are most excited by? This is a question for everyone, so feel free to jump in.
Tips.
Yeah.
Tips. I teach a blockchain economy courses, and we install Doge wallets and we play around with Doge. I spare 2-3 euros and we convert it to Doge, and just sparing my Doge there. I used to let people just install a Doge miner and try to mine some Dogecoin, but it's getting harder and harder, and I want to break their laptops not to do the thing and do some weird things with their internal GPUs. But nevertheless, it's very easy to get people into installing a wallet and manipulating a real currency and moving the thing around. And that's something that DogeCon is really well positioned to. As it's been said before on this room, if you just lose 2 or 3 euros, okay, that's fine. I lost my Dogecoin wallet, and that was okay. So one of the key applications that Dogecoin tackled is just use this as the tipping currency for the internet. Tip someone on Telegram, tip someone on WhatsApp, tip someone on Twitter, tip someone somewhere, just tip on Dogecoin. Just tip. It's fairly inexpensive, and it's always making people happy. Oh, I just received Dogecoin. And then maybe the next step is utilizing DogeCoin as a way to kickstart group intelligence. Like you want to crowd intelligence, crowdsource the thing. Like ask someone to ask a crowd to post something, and every time someone posts something, like give me a picture of a Doge in a spacesuit. Okay, everybody posts a picture of a Doge in a spacesuit, and give them some Dogecoin every time they do so. It's super efficient for that point of view, and it's something people feel happy about. Oh, I have some Dogecoin. How much it's worth? Oh, 30 cents. Okay, cool. That's fine. I got my Dogecoin. That's fine. And people are happy just manipulating those coins. So I think it's good to stay for those large-scale retail applications.
And if you can get Elon to start tipping people, then you're set, right?
As part of the government agency as well, you have to. You can set up payroll as like.
US government payroll.
Exactly. That's the.
That's my answer. I was going to say, actually, I mean, related to that, like I have been, I think, sort of somewhat bearish on DAOs to some degree, at least in the last year. But there's a lot of things that are sort of emerging in weirdly, like a lot of these sort of like mimetic spaces, like even in the meme coin space, that sort of approximate like groups coming together and governing like even like a shared AI or shared system in some way. And I would like to see maybe like, I don't know, some juice box type like tool on Dogecoin. I just think that would make a ton of sense to have like people coming in like crowdfunding DAOs together, or like some kind of like system together where people are working towards, you know, whatever, buying the Constitution or something equivalent to that, you know. And I think that would be a really interesting experiment.
Patrick, how about yourself? Do you have any? Yeah.
No, I'm not going to answer that question because I have to stay agnostic, right? I maintain basically the base protocol. So anything you make, as long as it's from the heart, I'm like super happy. So as long as everybody's having fun, I'm great.
Of course, that's why we're all here. We're all having fun, hopefully on this panel as well. So I guess like one of the defining narratives of this past year, or maybe this past cycle, is just like the rise of like meme coins, just everywhere. And Dogecoin is basically the first ever meme coin, way back before all of these other coins became a thing. So how do you think we should, now that we're looking at rebuilding this Doge ecosystem, how do we interact with Dogecoin's position as kind of the world's first meme coin, the world's biggest meme coin?
Make Doge.fun.
Doge.fun? Okay. We're going to buy the domain right now, you know?
Sorry, Austin.
I think it's not like they have the market cornered, but they're doing really silly, fun things. I think that's the theme. The theme here today is have fun and be silly and find neat, goofy things to do. So I think that's probably what the product market fit you're trying to do. And I think this reminds me of over at DevCon, we have a bunch of ZK proofs happening, and you're basically minting frogs. And you're minting these ZK frogs and proofs for these frogs. And then we built an app where you can squeeze the frogs every hour with a ZK proof and get a meme coin from the frog actually like emits 5 different meme coins that we minted. But we're like just playing around with silly stuff, right? It's just like doing goofy stuff. But this is right next to developers going to jail for a long, long time. And I think there's something really interesting here about using this really heady, really interesting technology and doing it in a really silly, fun way that kind of lets you get away with it a little bit more, or at least say like, yo, like don't throw me in jail. I'm just squeezing frogs over here. So I think that's it. I think that you want to target that silly, fun ecosystem and try to get that kind of stuff going.
Memes are a Trojan horse for financial innovation.
Yes.
It's an excellent application of the DogeCon brand. Like it's very recognizable. It's a huge community. It's listed on major exchanges. So now, okay, reclaim your position as the #1 meme coin. Like, this is where you're supposed to be sitting.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the craziest thing I would say. It's like it's like how is Solana winning the meme coin game and not Doge? Like this is like, come on. I think that's the biggest call to action for the whole community.
Because people don't care as much about centralization. They just want to pump down.
Exactly.
No, guys, I don't think Solana is winning any meme coin game anyway. But I'm just waiting for the day where basically you know the phrase Bitcoin, not crypto, that like, you know, all the top say Bitcoin actually say, well, maybe we need some people to say Dogecoin, not Bitcoin.
Yes.
And then, you know, it starts, we get started, something rolling, because like, you can't really compare something that has its own chain that was really like, it's here accidentally. It's not here because, you know, because somebody planned this. And I think that's the difference with all the things that call themselves meme coins. I don't think they're coins. Most of them are like ERC20s. Most of them are issued. So I'm like, you know, that you can't compare them. Yeah. So maybe we should say, you know, Dogecoin, not meme coin, and be toxic.
That's a really good point. Like those coins.
Toxic with a smile.
Yeah. The coins that are coming out of the frogs, like I meant for them to be meme coins the whole time, and a real meme coin happens accidentally. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, I think we need like the laser eyes on our like Doge mascot that's like roaming around. Yeah, Tony and Carter, you guys should get like the you get the laser eyes, okay? Exactly. I mean, it does really remind me of kind of like about a year or so ago when Bitcoin was still staying dormant, and then a lot of the supposed innovation was happening along in all of these other ecosystems, but actually Bitcoin is still kind of like the OG, the most dominant cryptocurrency. And over this past year, we've seen a great resurgence of interest in it. And I feel that we're in like a similar juncture for Dogecoin versus meme coins as well. So I guess my kind of last question before opening this up to the audience is, what's kind of your expectation on Dogecoin? What do you think is like its potential? Maybe in like, let's say the next year, the next 2 years, the next 5 years, etc. Where do you think Dogecoin will go?
Yeah. The future of frogs is on Dogecoin. I think that like there's I was trying to tie so many things together. But I think that there is something that like just I really think the thematic point of what we were talking about just earlier is the main thing that I would want to really emphasize and take away.
Yeah. I love to rock Dogecoin.
Yeah. Rock?
Yeah, rock them and put them on Ethereum.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I agree. It would be great if it was an L2, the CKL2, yeah. But I don't think that makes sense.
Oh my God. Doge Ethereum Bridge.
Oh my God. Yeah.
What about Patrick? What do you think?
That's cool. So for me, I don't look at this at like a 1 year or a 5 year time scale anymore. I think like over the next 45 years, we're going to do a major redistribution because of the constant issuance, you know, to the miners. What basically happens is we're redistributing this entire value one time over the next 40, 45, 50 years. So that means that everybody still has a chance to get in on it, right? Like it's not too late. It's a very long-term thing. So I would say it's going to be around in 10 years from now. The only question is how, right? And hopefully we will not be like disrupted by quantum technology or something like that. Like those are worries, of course. But other than that, I mean, I don't see a reason why it shouldn't exist. Like it's being maintained, it's always being maintained. You know, in even when at times, you know, things slow sitting down, there's always someone stepping in to say, hey, you know, let's fix this, let's do this, because it just keeps itself alive because it inspires so many people to just have fun. And I think fun is like the best, like the best way to, you know, to approach life, your projects, whatever. Like it's great to just, you know, just do it because you can and see what happens and, you know, and maybe it will be successful or maybe not. Who cares?
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that's a beautiful message that we're really just here to have fun. And that's how we really innovate. Innovation is about having fun. So yeah, with that in mind, we have like 3 minutes left. We'd love to open the floor up to any audience questions for our amazing panel here today. Yeah. Is anyone? Okay, here we go.
how much of the ZK rollups on Bitcoin stuff has been considered around the ZK rollups on Doge stuff?
I don't know how to.
Well, I don't know what to answer that either. Like,
Someone else in the crowd.
Patrick?
Patrick. It's gotta be Patrick.
Which solution
Oh.
are that? Because I think the main things on Bitcoin, what is happening is people are looking at upcat and making, large transactions using the primitives. I think that's also possible in Dogecoin. Like, the only problem is we'll need multiple subwords for that to happen. You can't do that without that root. Like, we don't have any, we don't have a way to have a successful upcode, right? So we don't make it like super huge in the script. We need something like that root to do that. And I don't think it should be excluded. So for example, someone asked me like what happens when we enable Taproot on Dogecoin, and I said, well, maybe we should look at what they did on Elements, where they just pre-enabled upcat, mol, whatever, and all those primitive things are just there, just like rate limited or very costly to use. But if you're doing a roll-up of 4 million transactions, then who cares how much your upcode costs on the L1? Like that doesn't really matter because you're splitting it over 1 million transactions. So I think from that perspective, yeah, like it's possible to follow that. It's always possible to do those softwares, and I think there are enough people interested in it now to at least propose it. So if you want to work on that, I'm going to do a proposal for real, like preferably Go. But
Yeah, that's amazing. All right, I think we're at time. Thank you to everyone that joined us today, and it's amazing. Let's all just have fun.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, let's go. All right.
All right, so we have the 3 biggest Doge mining pools here, right? Are we happy that we have the 3 biggest Doge mining pools here? Yeah! Welcome to DogeCon!
Thank you.
Okay, cool. So today we're going to be doing the panel in English, but Tony is also here if we want to do some Chinese parts as well.
I'm here.
But yeah, so I'll let Tony kick it off.
Yeah, so today in this panel we have Andy, CBO of Antpool, Paphy, the CBO of ViaBTC, and also March from Antpool and Stakefish. As Carter said, these 3 mining pools control almost 75% hash rate of Dogecoin.
Represent.
Yeah. And they're the POW guardians of Dogecoin. So yeah, we can start with our first question. So maybe everyone can have a brief intro of yourself and your company first. Let's start with Andy.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Thank you, Carter. And thank you for inviting me. Hey guys, my name is Andy, the CEO of Antpool. Do you know Antpool? Yes. Antpool is a trust brand that has been around for 10 years. We protect miners output from target fluctuations and scams. We also protect data security, but usually combined with some tactical standards. And we also dive deep into VP and want to do more things with Carter with VP group. And yeah, we wanted to build custom mining tools that to make your every hacker count. Thank you.
And then we have Paphy from ViaBTC.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Thank you, Carter. So I'm Paphy Cai from ViaBTC Mining Pool. I'm CBO of ViaBTC, and I joined the industry since 2017. And with all these years, all my experience are mostly related to crypto POW we were founded in 2016, and with all these 8 years efforts, we have established our ecosystem, include our mining pool and ViaBTC Capital, also Connect chain platform and Connect wallet. And in the near future, we have more products for the industry. And mentioned the ViaBTC mining pool, we are top 5 for most mainstream coins, and especially top 1 for Litecoin, Doge, and BIOS. Yes. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Carter. Thank you, QED, for inviting me here. I'm honored to share the moments to discuss some information and trends and thoughts with everyone. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Mark from Stakefish and Antpool. So Antpool is one of the top 5 Bitcoin mining pool. We started in 2013, and then we are a very lean team. And then for Stakefish, we're actually one of the leading operator. Some of the biggest network support are like Ethereum, Solana, Cosmos, and the TVL we have just 4 billion or above. Yeah, for me myself, I actually joined the space in 2018, doing exchange and also partnership stuff with Crypto.com, and also doing some institutional stuff in the past. Currently in Stakefish and Antpool, I'm taking care of external effort in terms of business and also investment. So exciting to share more about DogeCon and all those kinds of interesting topics.
Awesome. So I'll kick us off with the first question. So right now we're seeing something of a POW renaissance, right? All these new applications that we've seen in other places are coming to POW chains. Obviously a lot of it kicked off with the merge mining, ordinals, inscriptions, and now things like BTC-Fi. What are you guys, I guess, what is your opinions are, and how are the mining pools participating and helping benefit these ecosystems? Can you kick us off, Andy?
Yeah, we're happy to see some of the new blockchain. They want to use the bulk BTC hash rate to enhance their chain's security and stability. That we call the merge money as well. Yeah, and we also the merge money seems like the airdrop to the miners. All the miners they can make more benefit from the merge money. And we are also happy to see that all the BTC holders, especially for the miners, they can get more yield. We are staking and restaking and the lending protocol, things like what we do in the Ethereum, what we call the BTC blockchain. And we are also happy to see the BTC transaction fee continues raising. The cost of thanks to the KZ, thanks to KZ, thanks to the ordinals, we got BRC20, we got the RINs, we got the Bitcoin NFT, that is the thing that this is an amazing thing. That this is an amazing moment. Anything that will the miners can make benefit as the pool part we will support. Thank you.
Okay, my turn. So. I think all these plays important role for the progress of the industry. So for us, when we make decision whether or not or how to involve in this new projects or something, then we consider our own results of our team and also consider the manual industry in our own goal. So every time after the assessment, then we as we are mining pool, then we are mostly focused on POW mining. So we are interested in this in the POW projects. After assessment, then we are, if they are innovative and stable and have have very good influence in the market and in the industry, then we may deploy the mining solutions or service to the users and to also to benefit the ecosystem. Yes.
Yeah, I personally think like the Bitcoin ecosystem is actually very new. Like it's actually started off with ordinals like less than 2 years ago. And then at the beginning, we are actually more from an observing manner because we don't know this thing will be hot or not. Right? But like as it evolves, like we see there are many demand on trading, creating asset, using a new way. Like people may not want to create a ERC trading token, but they want to create inscription instead. And they spend a lot of money to mint this inscription, right? So that's very beneficial to the mining pools and miners. And we are very happy to support the ecosystem as well. And as the ecosystem evolves, like there are more natives, and some of them integrate merge mining as well, as Andy mentioned. So it's also an additional revenue stream for miners. Yeah, and I think it may be a trend that people who are holding Bitcoin, they want to generate more yield, and also starting to deploy their Bitcoin in some of this ecosystem, doing BTC5 or doing ordinals or all those kinds of things, right? Yeah, so I think in general, these kind of innovations are very aligned with the mining pools. Yeah.
Got you. So we talked a lot about money, but Dogecoin is also quite special. It's pretty fun. So what are your thoughts specifically on like the Doge ecosystem and like what makes it special? Because a lot of you guys have had this 就是一个非常特色的这个角度，因为你们是矿工 right? So it's like, what is so special about the Doge ecosystem? Or what have you noticed about it?
Okay, I'll start first. So I think DogeCon is a very unique coin because I think there are two main differentiations. The first one is that the value is very low per coin, right? Yeah, so that I spend...
Not for long.
No, I mean compared to Ethereum, like 3,000, maybe 0.30 cents. Like, I mean, spending the same dollar, I can acquire more Dogecoin, right? So that this is very favorable for like Dogecoin to acquire new users. Because like retail, they see the value is low, they think that there are high room for appreciation, right? So they're more willing to buy Dogecoin. Yeah, and second is that Dogecoin is very OG. And is like battle tested. Like there's no issue for Dogecoin for many years. And then some of the users may not even know Ethereum, but they know Dogecoin because of the history, right? Yeah. So I think it's very special, and this creates a lot of trust, and also the branding is already there. Yeah. So I think like many discussions are around like building DeFi or dApps on Bitcoin, like Humble on Dogecoin. Yeah, these kind of things can bring Dogecoin to the next level because we give more utility to the chain, and also the users, they can start using their Dogecoin to like play around with these apps or like even make some money, right? Yeah. So I think these are exciting times. Yeah.
Okay, for me, okay, we do know more of Dogecoin is to the moon now, the price.
Yeah, let's go. Come on, Elon.
Yeah.
Post some more Doge memes.
Yes, and for miners, but the mining profit is growing fast, growing a lot these days, and the price of mining machines, mining equipments changes frequently these days. I have some friends here. Yeah, so I got the information. So not only this, but almost every segment of the market is very active these days. All these are benefited from the ecosystem. And the ecosystem is influenced by some activities or comments from the influencers or political reasons, and also from the participants. For example, the miners, mining pools, projects, new technologies, and some I didn't mention, but they're also important. So as we all one of the participants in the whole ecosystem, so we should make efforts, try our best to make the ecosystem better and make the project better and do our best support. Thank you. Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Yes. I think the DogeCon's price and the performance, they totally itself, yeah. Because everybody knows that DogeCon is a best performing cryptocurrency this week. Yeah, I think some of us just wondering which one will be the next leader of the meme coin. Yes, and it seems like some of us just wondering which coin will replace the Bitcoin. Yeah, I think the DogeCon will always be the head of the meme coin. Yeah. And by the way, the Bitmain's L9 has become the best, hottest miners in the market.
So we were on like a community talk. I know we had like the Bells Coin guys, some Litecoin Foundation guys, and I remember on it was like an X Space, right? And I said, you gotta go buy an L9 miner because they're gonna be sold out real quick. And 1 month later, look where we are, right? So congratulations to Bitmain on that. But yeah, so there's a lot of cool innovations. Some of them we've discussed, but one of them was this new idea of having ZKPs on Dogecoin to help it scale. So what are your guys' thoughts on using zero-knowledge proofs to help increase users to actually have an on-chain footprint to take their money off the exchange and start using Dogecoin? And how do you think, the scaling efforts on POW chains are going to look like moving forward?
Yeah, I think currently for Dogecoin, the use case is pretty limited. I mean, obviously we see a lot of Dogecoin payments, right? Using for merchandising or online shopping. Yeah, and also one of the examples is trading on exchange. Yeah, so there's not many utilities right now. So from my very basic understanding, the implementation of CKPs can actually allow obviously enhance privacy and also doing complex dApps on Dogecoin on the layer 1 itself directly, right? Yeah, so it's pretty amazing because it can be it can be fully non-custodial. And then users can also have more scenarios to use their tokens. Yeah, so I think this very interesting innovation for POW chains because it can actually keep its security and also can scale the chain in exponentially, right? So it's an interesting innovation, I think. Yeah.
So for me, I represent a mining pool. For us, we focus on POW mining. So I care about more POW projects. I suppose like layer 2 products or other technologies can create new projects properly for mining, especially for merged mining. Then it means the users, they don't need to invest more, but they can get more. Yes.
So free money is better than not free money?
Yes, of course.
Any thoughts, Andy?
Yeah, actually, I don't get a very deeply technical insight of the ZK. But I think some of guys told me that ZK is kind of a promising future because of I think the ZK can apply to some tons of scenarios that need more data security. I think especially the finance, decentralized finance or the centralized finance. So we care more about money.
And we're all waiting on Bitmain to make some ZK chips, right? Everyone's gonna buy them. I'm gonna buy them, right? So hopefully we get some. We'd love. I've heard rumors, but I don't know. But yeah. So yeah. How much time do we have? Time check. Okay. 17 minutes. Great. So for your expectations for Dogecoin, what do you think Dogecoin is going to be like in the next 5 years? Because like right now, everyone's talking about Dogecoin, right? Like as soon as, well, at least as soon as I open Twitter, it's just pages and pages and pages of Dogecoin. And I'm sure that has nothing to do with recommendation algorithms. So what does Dogecoin look like in 5 years? Maybe we start off with Andy. I know we're going to
I think the DogeCon will go to the moon one day.
You heard it from the source.
And the back suggestion I just for the everyone is just to mine the DogeCon, to buy the Bitcoin, the type 9 black.
Everyone needs to buy an Antminer L9 in order to make Dogecoin go to the moon. Is that what I'm hearing?
You finished? So after you buy your purchase L9, then remember to use the ViaBTC mining pool.
Oh.
Okay. So I want to say more. I wish in several years later, DogeCon can be the second most influential coins or projects in the whole industry. So don't ask me why the second. You all knew the reason, right?
All right, we all like Bitcoin too.
Yeah. The second is also good. It's also awesome.
The second also okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's already achieving a lot of great things. Even like Elon Musk, Trump, like everyone in the US government is talking about Doge. Yeah, so it's already achieving great stuff. But I think maybe in the future we can see like maybe X payment in Doge. Yeah.
We would definitely need ZKPs for that.
It's not enough.
Just saying.
Yeah, and also maybe Doge ETF, because it's actually reasonable because POW coins are like they do not have a issuing entity, right? Yeah, it's fully decentralized, so it's possible. Yeah.
All right, so this is a mystery question. Should we all work together to get a Doge ETF done? maybe if anyone's watching on the live stream or anyone's here that's like owns a big bank or financial institution, you should definitely launch a Doge ETF. Now is the time. But yeah, I guess we have a little bit of time for questions, just because like very, very rarely do we get to have such an aggregation of many of the representatives of our largest miners. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask? Has anyone ever mined anything? Any miners? Miners. No miners. That may be why we have no miners. Oh, we got. Do you have any questions for the big three?
Are you guys having a good time?
Kaijima. So, where are the Kaijima? Are you guys having a good time?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's what it's all about, right? We'll end it there. I just want to say thank you so much to all these guys for organizing the hash power that protects all of our Doge coins. Without their support, we wouldn't be here. So let's all give a round of applause for the guardians of the Dogecoin.
Thank you, guys.
So can I add more? Yeah, I want. Share. Yeah. So before I mentioned that our mining pool team, as a ViaBTC mining pool team, we focus on POW mining, but we have a ecosystem including ViaBTC Capital, Unicorn Next Gen platform, and wallet. And today, some of my colleagues from our capital team is also here. So if you have other demand or collaboration demands to want to talk, then you can talk to them, like Molly and Kevin here. Yeah.
Do any of you guys?
Yeah, and Vivian. Yeah.
Now that because it's cool. It's cool. You can do it if you want. We already got an Antminer now.
I'm good.
Okay. Anything from F2?
Yeah, just a quick note. For F2 pool, apart from mining business, we also support quite a lot of BTC or POW ecosystem projects in terms of investment, and also providing technical support as well as troubleshooting. We go together with the projects. More projects, the better the ecosystem. Yeah.
And Stakefish #1, right?
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
So I know mine. because I wasn't sure I could trust these mining tools. So as a retail investor, if I were to mine, what's the minimum investment?
I think that's a good question. Like, what's the cheapest mining machine?
What is the cheapest mining?
Come on, man, you gotta give them a discount.
Yeah, it's a really tough question for me. The cheapest miner is do you know the cloud miner? The cloud miner. Like,
It's where they mine it for you.
We got a brand that called B2Fu. You can use $10, $50 that can get 1 terahash rate, and then also to mine from a little money.
But that's not your mining machine.
Yeah, that's fine.
You're cool with that?
I don't want to post it. I know it's Singapore, it's too expensive.
Okay, so yeah, maybe, and I'm sure all of you guys have cloud mining, right? Everyone's got cloud mining, right?
No.
Oh, no, not everyone. Oh, well, some do, right, but.
So with somebody living in Singapore, where those mining is ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
What's the best investment I can make? Yeah, I can put it back. Let's say. What do you decide?
It's just you can buy some cloud mining. Yeah. That's it.
How much Bitcoin do you get per month with 10K of cloud mining? Is it more than the equivalent amount of Bitcoins that I can market mine? I think is sort of what we're getting.
That's right, yeah.
This is what we want to hear.
What will give me the highest ROI? What should I mine to get the highest ROI for 10K, for example?
10K US dollars.
US dollars. US dollars.
How many Bitcoin you are expect to get within 10K US dollar? This is a question.
Is it more than $10,000 of Bitcoin at the current price?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know it's really hard to say because it depends on the Bitcoin's difficulty because the hash rate is fluctuation.
It's fluctuations, yeah. So which coins do you mine? If I go for cloud mining, which coins can I mine which will give me the highest ROI? Doesn't have to be Bitcoin.
Yeah, Litecoin, definitely.
Doge.
Yeah.
Doge.
Well, we're gonna hear from all three. Doge, mine Doge.
You can use a Litecoin miner that you can mine Litecoin that can get Litecoin. You can mine DogeCon, get Litecoin free.
Yep. The magic of merge mining. Thank you, Patrick, right? We all gotta thank Patrick.
Yeah.
Thank you for merge mining. We like free tokens.
I want to share more with the friend. So for each mining pool, we have a tool that called worker ranking tool, something like that. Probably the name is different, but the function is similar. And from the tool, the users can see the different cost and profit for each popular miners in the market. And I think it's helpful for the users or for the potential investors to use. Yeah, it's helpful. And I also found something interesting today. You see, there are trousers or skirt different colors, but we all in black shirts.
See, I'm wearing a black shirt because I'm kind of fat and I kind of want to hide it a little bit. But I know all of you guys are doing it because it's fashionable. But I think that's about. Do we hit the time limit yet? I don't want to mess up the other one. I think. Okay. Does anyone have any other questions? Any other questions? No? Okay, then I think we should just call it. Thank you guys so much for being here. You're always welcome at every DogeCon. And like I said before, we really appreciate you and the miners you represent for securing the networks that we know and love. So thank you for making blockchain a little bit more fun.
Thank you, KEP.
Thank you.
Let's dive into the future of layer 2s on proof of work chain of our panelists. The topic about this, please have a seat. The topic of this one is what are the new opportunities for L2s on POW chains like BTC, Doge, and others. So please start the session.
Alrighty, hello everybody. Thank you all for being here. I know it's been a long time, DevCon, it's a pretty great time of day in Thailand and everything, but excited to be here, excited to power through it and meet everyone. So really quickly, let's go over the brief introductions and also the different portfolio companies that kind of invested in.
Thank you for the introduction.
L2s and Bitcoin. Generally, so yeah, let's start.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Jay, I'm an associate at Terra Capital, one of the largest institutional investors. We're actually the first institutional investor in Bitcoin way back in 2013 in the US. So we've been obviously around, Bitcoin has been very much a part of our culture at Terra. Within this ecosystem, we recently invested in MyDoge, which is built on building BTC L2.
Perfect. Yeah, this is DogeCon. I'm a managing director at IOSC Ventures. We're one of the largest firms based in Asia. We've been investing in this space in 2017. We invested in many of the L2s, including Aztec, Arbitrum, Starkware. Within the context of Bitcoin, we invested in Babylon. We invested in Starkware. Now we're doing also an L2 on Bitcoin. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Hi, my name is Jonah. I'm at a fund called Blockchain Capital. My background was initially in engineering, and then I moved over to the investment side. Our fund was actually the first ever venture fund focused on crypto and blockchain, period. And the birth of the fund actually came out of like a deep passion for Bitcoin. So the founders of the fund, this is coming on over 12 years ago, became kind of infatuated with Bitcoin, and they started building a mining rig for Bitcoin. And what they noticed was there was a whole lack of infrastructure. Like Bitcoin was a clearly good idea, but there's a lack of infrastructure around it. And there was nobody investing in infrastructure to kind of like bring Bitcoin to the masses. And Blockchain Capital was born actually to support this movement. So you can track back our investments 11 years and you'll see a lot of the early investments made all this possible. We were some of the early backers. On the L2 side, we are actually backers of QED. We just like QED's round, and if you look at our portfolio, we've backed a lot of other ZK projects, L2s and Ethereum, and a bunch of others.
And hey, I'm Gil. I think I'm the oldest panelist for the youngest fund. And it's an honor. I mean, these guys are OG. Like, I got into the space in 2016, and like Pantera and Blockchain Capital were like, they were the funds. So awesome to be IOSG. You guys have also been around for ages. But yeah, so we are a fund that invests heavily in like Silicon Valley, specifically Stanford ecosystem. Our team kind of works closely with the Stanford Blockchain Accelerator and the event series there. We've done a ton of investment across like the infra space. We've done a few like L1s and L2s, Turbo, Pod, Zero Gravity. And QED, of course, as well.
Good investment.
Yeah, a great investment. We've known the team for some time, and they're like hella sharp, and it's been great seeing them kind of like pivot into this space as well.
Awesome, that's great. I guess also to introduce myself, my name is Tommy. I'm currently the president of Blockchain Berkeley, but also will be joining everyone on the stage into the venture capital side, joining Architect and of course. So I'm super excited to be here and chat more about venture capital and whatnot. But before we kind of get into like questions in mind, actually a quick question for you, Jonah. You mentioned like you guys, conferences all with Bitcoin as a primary focus and primary love and interest. And I'm very curious to hear as to where you think, especially with things like CBO and L2 Bitcoin, where you see the vision towards Bitcoin as value of storage and currency as opposed to value of buildings and complex.
It's interesting you're posing it as like a one or the other. I think both could be true. I mean, Bitcoin as a store of value is clearly a winning use case. It is half the value of our industry. But what's surprising is that you have this 1.5 trillion, is that the market cap, island. Like there's no smart contracts, there's no functionality. It's divorced from DeFi, it's divorced from all the use cases you have on all the other L2s. And the question becomes, like, what happens when you introduce all of that to the rest of DeFi? What happens when you enable smart contracts? Presumably, it's yes and, right? Like you have all the value of the store of value and you could do even more with it. And I think we've begun seeing that there's an interest to do more with kinds of takeoff of runes and BRC20s and ordinals. Like there's a pent-up demand to do more. So I don't think these ideas are in conflict. I think the introducing Bitcoin to the rest of DeFi is only additive.
Hey, sure, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, so I'd love to keep up kind of going down the line and just hear in general like, different perspectives and innovations that you guys really see fit on L2s and especially guys see mentioned like what the key course for so
yeah, I think like basically CK rollups are going to be really interesting to look at on all these proof of work chains, just because they represent, I would say, a very succinct and a very elegant solution to actually scale these sorts of blockchains. And we had a CK panel earlier today where we talked about, for example, introducing a Groth 16 verifier CK opcode onto DogeCoin. I think these sorts of innovation, these sorts of solutions will go a long way to really helping DogeCoin and other proof of work chains to scale and to really allow us to have this functionality of a world computer that Ethereum has kind of pioneered over these past few years. I think outside of that, the real opportunity is how do we create all sorts of new applications with, let's say, smart contracts and all of this stuff. A lot of this has been really well pioneered out in Ethereum, but now to bring that home back into the world's largest cryptocurrency asset, to Bitcoin, and to the world's largest meme coin, to Dogecoin, to see things, for example, like meme coin launchpads or some of these other things that we've seen in other ecosystems come back. I think I'm very excited for that future.
Right. I mean, like as VCs, I think we're just investing in the innovation, right? Innovation is what's bringing us, so that's a pre-requirement for our existence to begin with. And I think the innovation is going in Bitcoin space. I go back as like 2017, other people are earlier than me, but when I got into space, there was this like big block space size versus the smaller one, sort of conversion happening in Bitcoin space, and which led to forks happening in space. I think that set the scene back in the days where innovation was not going to happen on the Bitcoin ecosystem, and that was the case for the last couple of years. I think it's kind of like, but given the value that is being stored in the Bitcoin ecosystem, people will always think about that. I think we started seeing the first examples of like last year Babylon coming back and like they have this great key primitive which enables staking on Bitcoin ecosystem. I think that also sort of started a new way of innovation on the proof of work chain, and like people's developers and imagination have like got sparkled again. And now we have all these different versions of L2s, DK L2s, or like optimistic L2s trying to build on top of Bitcoin and other things that can change. I think this is very exciting. The timeline of when this is going to happen, or in some cases it's even possible, is still a big question. But as I said, like as long as there's a lot of value being stored in the Bitcoin ecosystem, I think it's going to attract a lot of people's imagination, and people will just give it a shot and try to come up with a programmable Bitcoin ecosystem overall.
Yeah, I'll have to say here. I agree innovation is important. I think where we are today, innovation is necessary but not sufficient. I think you also need to have some sort of value utility for some sort of market. And I think the interesting thing here is that like crypto in general is like technology and network effects. Usually we start with technology and we try to build network effects, we launch token, blah, blah, blah. On the proof of work chains, Dogecoin, Bitcoin, we're doing the opposite, right? We're starting with network effects. This huge community that is passionate about Bitcoin, about Dogecoin, and now you're trying to create innovation. And I don't think we should necessarily expect like generalist applications, like anything that would be on Ethereum. I think Jay kind of wanted this a little bit, like meme coins, etc. I think we want to be tackling the specific needs and use cases for what the community of Bitcoin would be interested in, what the communities of Doge would be interested in. And I think that also markedly changed a few days ago with a new department of Doge
payroll.
And potentially BTC becoming like a reserve currency, which is frightening and fascinating all in one. We've had L2s for a while, right? We've had Lightning Network, and despite everyone liking to shit on it, like they've had pretty decent growth in emerging markets for payments specifically. I think the challenge is, to kind of your point, you can't do everything with it. There's a whole lot that is limited, and it's kind of this one specific kind of set of use cases that are born of that initial use case of, okay, Bitcoin was the first hedge against inflation in emerging markets, and then you needed faster payments. So we kind of are able to see little pockets of innovation, but we haven't seen as much innovation for people that aren't necessarily looking at like the payment side of things and hedging against inflation, and that's the more big Bitcoin whales, Dogecoin whales, etc. And that's I think where you guys were pointing out like runes and ordinals and meme coins have much space.
And Gil, actually, on this topic you kind of mentioned previously here, like you mentioned, you know, like the separation of levels of network effect and also innovation, and how it's also a diverse nowadays, or at least in these like chains. And I'm curious, given the fact that we haven't seen this before, this isn't a typical way towards how this is driven. Like, I'm curious what drives that like this new paradigm is make sure that with the community and the
I mean, I look at the Web2 space, and the reason I say that is like if you have broad distribution and you add like value and capabilities, like you're able to, but the value needs to be there for the people that are actually within the community. So Babylon's a great example, right? There's an aversion for most people that hold Bitcoin to like bridge their Bitcoin. They don't want to risk their Bitcoin. They're looking at it as a store of value. Babylon was the first kind of like staking for other chains and providing security for other chains using Bitcoin, where you weren't like giving up full custody of your Bitcoin, and you weren't like bridging it somewhere else. So you were able to kind of have your security there, and really, unless you were a malicious actor, you weren't risking losing it. So it's able to meet the specific needs of these large Bitcoin holders without risking what they're trying to do. I think the question really is now that there's who was the Bitcoin and Dogecoin ecosystems, and who is the Bitcoin and Dogecoin ecosystem now, given the events of November 7th. Right? I think, like, again, if this becomes a reserve currency, we have a huge like need and requirement for trusted ability to like manage, execute, and do all of these different like financial types of transactions with Bitcoin that you would necessarily want a performant and secure chain on. Same with Dogecoin, right? If this becomes like hella popular because Elon Musk is going to allow it on X and to buy a Tesla, then other brands are going to also potentially let you buy shit, and then you're going to have like huge loyalty programs. It makes the most sense for them to be on the most popular chain if you're talking about like loyalty and distribution.
I think to add on to what Joe was just mentioned, I think basically distribution and innovation has to go hand in hand. And I think what Dogecoin and Bitcoin, their most powerful part is that they're a massive distribution network. You just have so much stuff just lying around. But so whereas in other ecosystems, we've seen there's a lot of innovation, but not that much distribution. They're competing for the same 20,000 DGens. But actually with Bitcoin, with Dogecoin, these are actually coins that the mainstream, basically a lot of people that may not be in the crypto industry actually know about. People actually do know about the history of Dogecoin. People do know about Bitcoin. So having all of this distribution, that's just latent there. I think that's a very right place for us to really experiment with a lot of these things that we develop in other communities, and to really allow them to have big real impact. That's how you really onboard mass adoption and have a lot of users using crypto technology. Having many use of these distribution patterns.
然后把这个录马拉文码，录马的这个图片也给赶快替换了。OK。
I'm also curious to hear, maybe taking a step back and looking at scope outside of that, like all these topics outside, specifically for chains like Bitcoin, Dogecoin, how do they fare? Like, do you guys think that there are prominent issues now, prominent factors that are, you know, eminent of success in these L2s and during them and EVM chains? And so I'm curious to know your thoughts there.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the big lessons we learned from other ecosystems that adopted L2s has been that L2s naturally fragment state, and as a result, you end up having these pretty bad interoperability challenges. And these are, by the way, completely solvable challenges, but as you begin to have L2s in shard state and have execution in different environments, interop's a challenge. Like, between two chains on Ethereum or two L2s on Ethereum, it's hard. It'll get better, by the way, but it's hard. And I think one of the big lessons that Bitcoin can learn from what happened on Ethereum is when you're designing the L2, right? QED is amazing. It's complete white space. When you're designing the L2, interop needs to be a first-class citizen. And you have to kind of design in mind thinking, we're going to have many L2s or many execution environments in a shard state in many different ways, and we want all that to be compatible with each other so that we get network effects out the gate, right? And not destroy network effects. So I think that there's a lot of lessons to be learned from what has happened in other ecosystems, and kind of the benefit of Bitcoin is Bitcoin's playing on a very long time horizon. Bitcoin's going to be here forever. It is, and as a result, it has this luxury of it doesn't have smart contracts now, it doesn't have L2s now, or true L2s. You can learn from the past and then integrate it into its own roadmap.
Yeah. So maybe another lesson from the L2s on the Ethereum ecosystem. I think what we've seen was like there were a lot of different flavors of L2s on Ethereum, from ZK to LP, but then what matters is time to market. So we've seen very clever movements from the LP roll-up side where they were early to the market, they were the first ones to get some of the biggest clients in the space, and hence they started getting a lot of liquidity and usage early on. And then after that, they started iterating on the technology itself. So maybe you don't have to go to market with the best of the technology. Technology doesn't matter that much, and it matters little. As long as you got the distribution, as both of them are pointing to, this is what matters at the end of the day. So maybe just looking at the Bitcoin ecosystem or Doge ecosystem now, L2s coming into market, I think time to market is going to matter a lot. Like when these projects come into market, how does the Ethereum ecosystem, what the ecosystem look like, L2s look like, and how much distribution they have. So I think if they win the game over there, then it's a problem over here as well, despite the strong culture network effects that Doge and Bitcoin has. But I think at the end of the day, it will just matter. They care about the time to market, they care about the work around their conclusion and all that. And I think this is the new perspective.
I actually disagree with one of your points. I do think technology matters in the Bitcoin race. And the reason is it's clear that in the limit, a ZK rollup is more optimal. It would be very hard to argue that point. But obviously, an optimistic rollup in a short to medium term is a easier solution to put to market. The thing with Bitcoin is if you put an optimistic rollup, you're forced to use a BitVM or some solution like that, which is way more expensive. As a result, users are going to face obscene fees, time to finality is crazy. It is a worse solution for users. So actually taking shortcuts and not using a ZK solution and doing the inferior technical solution is actually a worse UX. So I think there's kind of a flip. Yeah.
I think like there's another perspective to look at it. So you mentioned this UX perspective, but also like from a DevX perspective. So I think so OP and it's true that they were first market, but at the same time they were all EVM compatible. We see that for many EVM chains, you see like Base, for example. Base was pretty late to market, but it's already at basically really high value, really high TVL. It's basically number one, number two, depending on what stats you use. And in those cases, you see kind of like a moat effect of having a strong DevX around Solidity. So I think whoever is early to market will also be able to dictate what is kind of like a developer tooling stack that is going to be used to scale smart contracts on Bitcoin. Is that going to be an EVM style thing? Is that going to be an Italian music? Maybe it's something related to stacks like Clarity or something like that. I think the jury's still out on that. But considering, I think there's like a big moat around the companies or the standards that are developed around them.
I actually disagree with that point as well. Like I don't think one of the beauties of ZK is that we've developed a notion of a ZK VM, which means you have an arbitrary front-end language that could be proved. So you could have EVM compatible ZK, you can have SVM compatible ZK, you could have I don't know. There's a myriad of languages you can use for it, and as a result, you can actually get any tech stack can work and is interoperable day one with ZK. So you can actually have there's no longer are tech stacks competitive.
I disagree with that. I think you would actually have a fragmentation of if you have some, I think like on the proof, I feel like there's a lot of different, maybe for many of these languages, they might compile to something that's in common, such as WASM. But in cases where you have like a proof for WASM, you have a proof for EVM, you have a proof for something else, to me that seems like a bunch of redundant infrastructure that could be solved by just using a unified tech stack, just even on the root level.
But the infrastructure already exists, right? And like the
yeah. I mean, where does it exist? I think like 99% of developers are trying to solve 1% of the world's problems that would be decentralized, right? And the things that we've tackled right now, and I agree with you that we're highly fragmented on like the EVM side of things, both in terms of developer experience and in terms of technology, and in terms of like actual use cases, and like the chains that end up having like more adoption, right? Solana has tremendous adoption, and it's completely separate ecosystem because they didn't really need that backwards compatibility for meme coins and DPIN, right? So I think it's like, where do you? I think I agree with you that technology matters, and it's a question of like, what technology matters for which developers and matter for which use cases and end users, and I think that like. The things that work in the EVM or Ethereum ecosystem aren't and likely won't be the same things that are going to work in the proof of work chains, and I don't think that they're necessarily going to be the same that work in Solana, Avalanche, or any of like these other chains that we have.
Yeah, I think there's also the Ruben side of technology and like this importance there, but actually to the point that Jay brought up as well, like the first mover advantage is that it's something that crypto holds pretty enduring towards a lot of applications, a lot of successful powers, and I'm curious to hear, especially on the distribution endpoint, where it fares with things like Solana and comparison between like incumbents and newer chains that are trying to overbuild that.
Yeah, I think there's, in many of the cases where you've seen like a new chain leapfrog, there's always like a piggyback. So in the case of Solana, for example, I think that one of the big reasons is just because they're using Rust. Rust as a developer language has a very sophisticated tooling. It has 10 million developers or so, compared to let's say 10,000 or 100,000 Solana developers. So the fact that you're able to piggyback off of existing network effects, that's I think the fastest path to actually to really basically unseat an incumbent in some of these cases, and also to find really super use cases. So I guess in the case of, for example, meme coins on Solana, I think one big reason, or some of the other things that Solana is really good at, something we can, is just because it's a lot faster, it's a lot cheaper to run these sorts of applications on Solana than it would be if you tried it on like some other network. And yeah.
Do you think this would be an issue, or maybe more so like a barrier when it comes to things like bringing execution environments to DogeCon? Do you think this would be a barrier towards adoption there?
Yeah, so I think my perspective is that you would want to have something that's like familiar to developers as like a development environment when you're creating like a new VM on top of Bitcoin or on top of Dogecoin. Hopefully that is something that is relatively similar to what we have already, like for EVM or either EVM or like a Rust tech stack. I think you kind of like completely one-on-one like to port these over directly, just because there are these cultural differences, there are these sort of technical differences as well with these XM models versus let's say the EVM state models. But I think in general you want to tap into some sense of familiarity in terms of really getting a better developer experience. You don't want people to learn an entirely new DSL just for your own thing. We've seen that a lot of chains that have tried to implement their own DSLs have not gotten as much traction as chains that have implemented like Collins.
I say screw Solidity for the proof of work chains. I think Rust is fine because it's broadly adopted, but I think like the use cases that I think are going to be broadly adopted on proof of work chains are not necessarily going to be the ones that are on EVM chains, and we don't necessarily need them to be the ones. And if you're trying to go for this mass market, because you already have a crap ton of people that own these these tokens and aren't necessarily like crypto enthusiasts that are playing like decentralized games and stuff, or doing a whole bunch of DeFi trading. It's the like Doge and Bitcoin that's your normies in your mass market that are slightly interested. Use that as an opportunity to make it easier for like a regular developer to build a game
on Doge or to build meme coins, and maybe that's Python, maybe that's Rust, right? And in the Bitcoin space, like, yeah, scripting in Bitcoin is atrocious. So if you can make it real easy for people in TradFi to like move into the space, like we've been looking at a bunch of companies that are developing platforms for people to code in Python that then automatically kind of like translates into chain-specific code. Like you can code in Python, and like you open up your entire design space to the mass market. And I think that's where we'll see things.
I'm actually curious, like why would the use cases be different between proof of work alters versus proof of stake alters, let's say Ethereum alters? Like what are the strong arguments for that?
The distribution that you already have is one. The users, both the developers and the users, but also like proof of work chains don't make your life easier, right? So yes, if you have an L2, it theoretically abstracts all that. But if you're doing like a DePIN project, and you're a developer, you want something that will give you the most efficient, the best solution for DePIN. And the people in DePIN don't care if you're on Bitcoin or on Dogecoin. They just want to be able to like collect data so that you can feed some AI thing.
I don't disagree with you. I think that I don't see why use cases would be different on a proof of stake chain versus proof of work. It doesn't make sense to me. What I do think is different is the demographics of who are using these chains. So Dogecoin obviously has more mass market appeal. The array of Bitcoin holders is probably a superset of Ethereum holders. Like there's way more mass market. So the question is just, I imagine the applications for Bitcoin and Dogecoin will skew more towards mass market appeal and for people that are not necessarily crypto native appeal, ironically. But I don't think it would be markedly different.
It almost seems like the inherent differences come towards like the communities that POW or POS chain with just use. You're right, and I do think Bitcoin and Dogecoin, they are generally more mass market. I agree with that, but I feel like one big question then that I think maybe for the remaining subs I'm pretty curious is obviously if you're in the room is annually verified is the topic of the invoices. So given that this has been a pretty prevalent topic of bringing up, especially since we're on contribution to 2024 to 2029, I'm curious if there is a discussion of these cases there.
I mean, I think you already have network effects within Solana. You have some in Base. I think like there is a large kind of ecosystem there. I think if we get to a place where someone like QED makes it hella easy for anyone to trade meme coins and gamify it, and you can gain like larger mass adoption, I think the larger market is so much bigger than the Solana market that we'll likely see adoption there. I also think we're going to start to see more of a, and this is kind of against some of the crypto VC theories around meme coins. I think we're going to start seeing more meme coins for celebrities, more meme coins for brands and loyalty type things. And I would imagine that could be a really great use case for Doge, because everyone knows Doge. Yeah, that's Doge.
I think maybe like more than any other segment in crypto, meme coins are all about culture. Like they're forming a cult around them, and in some cases they might become religion to them all that. So it's the excitement that people like have sort of like for these meme coins, and it's taking some time from our side to build a confidence in that. But if it's about culture, then I think there are no other L1s that are strongly culture. Like all the L1s have pretty strong culture, like Bitcoin, Dogecoin, etc. So I wouldn't expect all the meme coin activity or code moving into these proof of work alters or something. But then specifically within the culture of Dogecoin, whatever they want to do, they would like to do it on Dogecoin L2s because it's the chain that they belong to and it's the one that they have more ownership on. Maybe more so this sort of activity will happen. This is like in the context of culture is what's important.
Yeah, I think to add on to that, I've been looking kind of like at the meme space for quite some time. So kind of like before this present cycle really took off. So I wrote about, I wrote actually like a blog post on coins in May of 23 when that
That's kind of all hearing.
Actually, when you ask the question, what is like a meme in reality? Why is Dogecoin so
This one is
popular?
like actually 5. So it's like few minutes and then this one is done. And then will be the final until like 5:30. I think that's all. But I want to know like how long people can stay here so I can.
It has this cultural like value, but you cannot have a way to actually measure that. You don't actually know how to quantify it. But meme coins are precisely the opposite. They represent a unit of value without anything backing, without any particular innovation actually backing a product. There's no fundamentals to a meme coin. So these two concepts, the meme and the meme coin, they kind of fit together hand in glove to bring to you some kind of like objective quantification of what is the potency, what is the power of a meme within a society. So I think meme coins are here to stay. Just the fact that memes are here to stay will suggest to me that meme coins are here to stay. And in the case of a chain like DogeCon, which is built on top of all of these memes, I think we need to think about applications like how do we use these applications themselves in further service of the meme in the first place. How do we actually create applications where we're actually propagating this meme? Maybe we're remixing this meme. Maybe we're doing some sort of really fun stuff with this meme. And to me, that is the core value proposition of Dogecoin. It's something that is built on top of this great internet culture.
Unpopular opinion, but meme coins do not get me up in the morning. Like I'm not in this space for meme coins. I get the appeal. I think that meme coins probably represent an example of a crypto-native game. We talk about games on blockchains. I think meme coins are just one instantiation of that, but it's not what makes me want to be in this space or keeps me here. What's interesting about them, though, is that they're an interesting top of funnel, where meme coins, in a lot of ways, get people to the chain, but I'm interested what they do next. If they start using stable coins, they start using these alternative financial rails for DeFi. Like I find those use cases more interesting. I see meme coins as just a game.
I'll agree with Jonah in that they don't get me up in the morning, and I'll agree that they're more exciting about what they have as potential. I think what is interesting is like before meme coins existed, I view meme coins as really just a brand, right? And if I look at the history of like of Nike, of Louis Vuitton, like these are cultural movements that have nothing behind them other than like this emotional and idealistic set of philosophies behind them that people right now just do it. Louis Vuitton is like luxury for the masses, so to speak, and they're all, and so to me, like good meme coins are able to capture these same types of zeitgeist. And is it exciting to just have like this thing that people can trade? No. Well, I think what is more exciting is, okay, well, now if a brand can be monetized into a token, what can you do with that? What can they do with that? And can they have programmable brands? And what does a programmable brand actually look like?
Unfortunately, unpopular opinion, but I actually I did wake up today to meet because the Doge news today. So I guess that's an unpopular opinion on this board right now. But yeah, absolutely, I love the opinions you guys have. Like on your point, like I talked to a friend from Basel, and he was saying the same exact thing about this being the first crypto-native game, and I was trying to draw corollaries, the anti-sections in the past, and maybe they're just like the market suffering through, and nowadays it's just kind of that really long stream kind of culture, and so. That's just kind of my thoughts there, but it was great to hear all the thoughts here on overall L2s, ZK, work chains, and obviously on the global front. So thank you so much to everyone for coming out, and yeah, thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi everyone, how's it going? Good. Last panel. Last guest panel. I'll be your moderator today. My name is Steve Wilder. I'm a general partner of Blockchain Holders Fund, which is most known at this point for investing in the Antpool ecosystem. Communities of work, I love those guys, so excited to help out the panel. We've got an awesome panel here. We're going to talk about fun stuff like hold on. So I'll just, I won't put your names and backgrounds and stuff, meeting all of you for the first time actually up here. But maybe we go down the line. I'd love to get a little bit of background on each of you, as well as sort of what you're doing for those ecosystems.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Sebastian Borgé. I'm the COO and co-founder of the Sandbox. The Sandbox, maybe a few people who are familiar with Sandbox in the room. All right, well, great. We have many dog fans here to convert. We're essentially a decentralized virtual world where anyone can make 3D content, full games, and experiences without any code, and truly all them can do use of blockchain and NFTs. We've grown as the largest metaverse platform with over 6 million users. 400 major brands and partnerships from like entertainment, celebrity like Chou, etc., and also exciting Web3 collaborations. So we brought like many collection of NFTs to life in sandbox like Orlane and so on. And recently we brought a lot of Bitcoin as well to life in sandbox. So if you just hold down on your wallet, it becomes like a 3D based character that you use your avatar to play and spur some dogs as well. I'm also the president of the Blockchain Game Alliance. It is an association that counts over 600 members who call blockchain game technology gaming industry.
Guys, my name is Sunny Underwell. I am one of the co-founders of Osmosis. We are an interchain DEX that lets you trade assets from a bunch of different blockchains: Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, Con, and as of last night, Doge. And yeah, I mean, I'm here because I've been part of the DogeCon community for a long time. Actually, my first time I ever learned about crypto was senior year of high school. Somewhat, I don't know, an article or something about like Dogecoin sponsored the Jamaican bobsled team, and I was like, what does that mean? I'd go home and look up Dogecoin. Then it mentioned Bitcoin, so I had to go look up Bitcoin, and the rest was history from there. So Dogecoin always has a close, special place in my heart. So, and I've been involved in this for a while.
Hey everybody, Jordan, founder and CEO of MyDoge and the upcoming Doge OS. Not as OG as Sunny, but we actually had a DogeCon hackathon in Australia a few years ago. So, yeah.
Hey guys, Edward from Hobby and HTX Ventures. I think we are also OG exchange operator. Yeah, so I think in last cycle we support Doge listing. I think it's very successful, and we're happy to see the community grow very fast. Also, thanks for Sony inviting me to join the panel. Yeah.
Excellent. Excited to have you all here. So yeah, let's dive into it. So Jordan, I'm going to pull a little bit more out of you. The first question for you. As one of the earliest builders in the Doge ecosystem, can you give us a sense of like what the applications are on Doge, kind of as you see people interact with them through the wallet? What do you think would portray the killer app on?
Yeah, I would say that because there's not really development capabilities on Doge, there are not a lot of killer applications yet on Doge. That's kind of why when we put MyDoge together, I mean, I was actually planning to build a Web3 game, on-chain smart contract-based game, and then I was Doge built by my co-founder Bill, and I was like, okay, back to the drawing board. What are we going to build? There's some smart contracts. So yeah, we built a wallet because we saw a need there. I would say that DogeCon ecosystem right now, I mean, to be honest, 90% of DogeCon activity is on centralized exchanges, such as trading. The core community does a few things. Payments is still a killer application. I mean, the core community sees Dogecoin as money. You're supposed to spend it. I think it's nice that kind of like the Bitcoin narrative diverged a bit. It opened the door for Dogecoin to be that money. And I would say one killer application is what our friends at Williams Goes Pizza in New York are doing, which is they've created a Dogecoin point of sale solution. They're actually spreading it to small businesses all over the world right now. And it's actually getting some uptake. So that original, Satoshi's vision basically of peer-to-peer electronic cash is actually alive and well on the layer one of Dogecoin. Beyond that, I would say from our wallet, the killer application is really sending Doge on X, formerly Twitter, and that's something everybody wants. We want to integrate natively. In the meantime, we facilitate that. We do it in a self-custodial way, which I think is really great. It's a little bit worse UX, but you never trust anyone, not us, nobody with your points, which is something we're pretty passionate about. So I would say, the killer app right now is really just peer-to-peer. It's people tipping Doge on X to newcomers to the community, to friends, giveaways. It's crowdfunding little bits of Doge at a time to support someone who's down with luck or for little charity efforts. It's kind of old school. I don't want to talk too long, but the developer ecosystem that has emerged this year on Doge is really around subscriptions. I think this has been really exciting because yeah, there was really no Doge developer community until inscription started to bring people in. And I think it's really awesome, but I think like we're only scratching the surface. I mean, there's only so much you can do with inscriptions right now. I think all the builders here are really excited about providing more opportunities with technology. I would say the one thing that I would personally love to see is, given the limitations of building stuff decentralized, people are building stuff that you kind of have to trust that's centralized, where it's kind of just, hey, send us your Doge or send us your inscription and trust us with it. And I would like to move away from that. So I think that's what I'm passionate about.
Awesome. And I'll just take this like one step further. Like unshackle yourself. Say you get, Turing complete smart contract functionality on Doge. What do you think the community really wants to see?
I think the Doge community, what they want to see is probably different from what like the average Web3 person would expect. But I would say the Doge community just wants to have fun. I think it's like 150% about the fun, maybe 420% about the fun. And so, I mean, that's what we're really focused on, like early in the ecosystem, what are the most fun things we can bring? And I think fun could be different for everybody, but I would say the stuff that's gonna get the community excited is really fun, cool games, cute Doge stuff, ways to like win Doge, win Doge merch, that kind of stuff. And then I think the other thing that would get the core community really excited is actually kind of high-level stuff, like where is the best blockchain to decentralize AI? Probably the people's currency, the most democratized blockchain in the world. And so I think we are working with some partners who are doing really high-level stuff like that, where it's maybe not immediately in the hands of the end user, but I think gets the community really excited with the potential for Doge.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So this next one's for Sebastian and Sammy. I'll just lay it out there. So Sandbox is supposed to support different chains. What are your considerations for choosing a chain? What do you think potential of Doge to layer on for different applications?
Alright, so when we actually started to build Sandbox, the blockchain-based version back in 2019, there was not a lot of blockchain ecosystem which was Groth. It was essentially yours, Chou, maybe. And Ethereum was, I think, like de facto choice. It was one with the largest developer ecosystem, largest developer support, the highest TVL, marketplaces like OpenSea and so on. That's usually the kind of criteria you look for when you start to choose to build one of your blockchain ecosystem. Like, is there like already an existing user base without their standing a bit? Do you have like decentralized tools to support your development and support your community and standards like ERC 721 or even 55 for NFTs? And is there like a way for my application or game to be discovered on chain? And yes, like that came from the power of OpenSea and those different events like DogeCon that brings us together here. So we started to build on Ethereum, but over time the gas fee went really high. And so around 2021, we moved to Polygon, which was, I would say, one of the first layer 2 that was actually live in production. So once again, like when we wanted to move to L2, there were a lot of promising solutions, but all on testnet. You cannot launch a game with millions of users on the testnet. You have to always move something that's production, ready, but tested. So we're still on Polygon today, but over the last few months, we've reached many other blockchains thanks to layer 0. So now you can find the sand on like Binance Smart Chain, on Base, and obviously we're looking at many other ecosystems. We're very inspired by the idea that one day we could have our own ZK rollup sidechain, bring our own users there, and bring our user base, all our lands, our avatar, our sands, and give access to our community and third-party developers to build upon. I think the blockchain, what it brings is the strength of the community. I would say the killer app, like you were explaining, for me, is really like the social network that's on it. The fact that they are very active, very engaged, they are present at conference, they are avid of consuming content, and there is a large gap to provide. So there is probably a great market opportunity here for anyone who wants to develop their first game and choose for blockchain today. That needs like fantastic players who are here to earn some Doge and like maybe to like share that value and the community and onboard more friends. I think that's something quite exciting about this community is really also the network effect. I feel like even though it started in 2013, if I'm right, it keeps expanding. You know, you really want to bring more and more friends into this ecosystem. It's a fantastic democratizer for blockchain, something that's quite technical, hard to understand. You were telling your story and you have to learn Bitcoin, etc. But somehow this cute dog character makes it so much more fun and simple, and anyone is curious to dive into this space.
Sweet, thank you. And Sunny, same question, right? So you got it, that's Nexus. By the way, who did your deck start? You have the best deck start. But anyway, you have the asset. Like, I'm a little curious. Like, what was that technically challenging? And then, like, what made you decide to do that? Besides the fact that you also are a cash
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so we've been working actually on Doge for a while. So, you know, our goal, so I mean, first question of like, why we choose what to build on, we have our own app chain, so we're not building on anyone else's L1. And that was primarily for two reasons. One is, our goal is to be an interchain DEX, and I think that requires some level of neutrality, where we don't want to be based off of any one specific chain. You lose that, you know, we want to be the Switzerland of DEXs, right? And so by having our own app chain, you don't feel like, you know, again, someone bringing liquidity to osmosis doesn't feel like, oh, you're helping your competitor, right? We're just a neutral place to do trading across everything. And then the other was for technical reasons. A lot of, you know, we're based off of the Cosmos SDK tech stack. And the benefit of that tech stack is it gives you a lot of ability to iterate on, you know, you have full control, and so you can kind of like choose what you want to do. So like, you know, you can build it native. If you want your validator set to run a bridge to DogeCon, for example, or you want your validator set to run oracles, or you want your validator set, you want to add new cryptography to do privacy stuff. You know, you can do all, you have full control over your whole stack from technical level to the validator set. And so, you know, we make use of a lot of that. And so, yeah, our goal, we want to integrate as many different bridges as possible, because we're aiming for a maximum breadth of, we want to be able to trade everything, right? And so, Doge is something we have been, we actually incubated a team to build an MVC-based bridging solution for Doge, Bitcoin, Litecoin, etc. And so we definitely did, you know, with the price movements this week, we definitely accelerated of, hey, let's launch this thing like this week. But yeah.
Sweet, that's awesome. Thanks for doing that. We got a lot of community. Great. So Edward, this one's for you. As I'm sure you're aware, as is everybody else in the panel, a lot of DogeCoin holders still trade and hold Dogecoin in centralized exchanges. What kind of applications or utility do you think can get more holders to move off exchange?
Off exchange?
Yeah, which is against what you probably want to do, but nonetheless.
Okay, can we think about how to make our users do something more within the exchange first, I think, and off exchange? I think from the centralized exchanges perspective, I think the trend is very clear. On one side, all the operators still has very, you know, I would say that traditional assets, so we just want to build a centralized organization run an exchange. But on the other side, all the offshore, especially offshore exchanges, I think they face the challenge of regulators. So they have to think about that if we have some alternative solution to still serve the users we used to have. For example, we know that Europe will have new license coming out next year, right? So you can see all the centralized exchanges operator, they are working on the wallet as well as the DEX as well. I think these things have become a new hub and the integrator for all the communities, no matter how channel is the same. So I think the first thing definitely we can do is to let Doge, the whole community, to have more close collaborations with all these wallet DEX systems. But during the same time, I mean, centralized exchange operators, they definitely want the users to keep on their platform, right? And just let them go to the DEX, right? So from operator angle, we still want to do something within the centralized platforms, not only with just Dogecoin trading or arbitrage, but something more, which actually from a community, builder perspective, you can leverage this mindset, because all the exchanges, they want to help the users to educate, to have a better understanding of Doge, like Doge on trend. I think probably we see some voice from the community that say that Doge go to $1 or more, right? I think all operators, they want to pass this information to their users. So that's why it's a real opportunity for Doge community operator to co-work with centralized exchanges to leverage the channels to have better education, including to integrate with the new chain and also upcoming apps, which to Fang just mentioned. I think there's a lot of things we can do together.
Yeah, sweet. That makes a lot of sense. I think exchanges face like a bit of a tough challenge. If you want to grow the space, right, you need to get things on chain and like innovate on chain, but also you don't want to lose your custody assets or your exchange volume. So it's good to figure out ways to kind of do both. Awesome. Okay. So these are open questions, right? And so it's kind of like hand up. Everyone has to answer it. This one's kind of a fun one. We've already covered a little bit, but like categories for Dogecoin users. Like, so we unlock Dogecoin, right? Like hypothetically, we get a build whatever we want. Where are Dogecoin users? Like, how do we pull them on chain? And then, like, what do we build for them? What do they want to do?
I'll start. In the early days of our wallet, we had like a pretty cool social vibe, really just meme vibe, and we called it the meme economy. We took it away because Apple was basically like, look, you can't do crypto transactions natively in the app. So we removed it for now, but I think, and I've talked to some people here today who are sort of building in this meme buy space, but I think like that's something that's so native to Dogecoin. Is how do we, whether it's like monetizing memes, whether it's gamifying meme creation, whether it's tracking the provenance of memes, I think innovation around memes is probably like the most Doge thing you can do. And like the Doge community are some of the best memers in the world. My friends and teammates started the Department of Government Efficiency meme, and now it's literally, as of today, a thing. So I think the power of memes and the memes coming from the Doge community, that's a big opportunity.
All right. So I believe like there is a strong need for education in general for blockchain and Web3. Very often you will hear that in the industry. And I believe like the DogeCon can be a great way to actually introduce financial literacy to the youngest around the world, because it's so simple, it's so friendly in a way. It does hold value, but it doesn't hold crazy value that Bitcoin or ETH. So it's in a way that kids around the world can learn about financial literacy, staking, saving, investing through Dogecoin. So I would encourage anyone to introduce blockchain and Web3 through Dogecoin to the younger children and their kids as well. The second thing is, I also believe that it's really important in the age of AI now that we teach to the youngest like how to code, how to make their own apps, and now how to be creative and make their own games. And like platforms like Sandbox are really democratizing access to content creation. So I would love kids to create games featuring like Doge as a character, as their hero, and earning Dogecoin as a reward for it, both for playing and creating. I think that would be a good virtual circle.
Good about that. Anyone else want to reflect this one?
I think like in the early Dogecoin community, tipping was like a very common, like one of the main use cases, and like Jordan was saying earlier, like payments and tipping. I think of the main still like the main use case of money, right? And I think we just need to build more tools and make that more easy and like accessible from the apps that people already use today, right? Whether it's through Telegram or through X or
Sweet. Happy to move on to the next one if there's no more takes there. Okay, we're skipping to something a little bit less fun. I'm curious, once again, this is for anyone who wants to take it, what are your views on client and core innovation governance? Like, I'll admit I'm someone ignorant on this. I've secondhand watched move the ball here, but I'm curious as folks who've been in the space longer and watched this evolve. Like, I know Bitcoin is a huge weakness or a strength. I think it's really fast, right? I'm curious to get like back on the op-ed.
Yeah, so I think my vision, or what I would like to see, is I think what's, rewind 5 years ago, the economy was the economic testnet of Bitcoin, right? Like Bitcoin activated SegWit first, showed that it was working, and then Bitcoin activated it. I think Litecoin has sort of stagnated legally at this point. And I feel that Doge, as well as its economic value, I think Dogecoin has effectively replaced Litecoin as the number 2 UTXO chain, right? And so I would like to see, personally, I would like to see Dogecoin become, adopt that role, right? Of like, first of all, I think Dogecoin has not had, it needs to catch up to where Bitcoin is today, right? Activate SegWit, activate Taproot. But like, I think Dogecoin should look at what are the most likely proposals to pass in Bitcoin, such as something like OpCat, and activate that, right? I know the QED team has, some really good proposals for new opcodes, but I think that's going to set it into a relatively divergent route from Bitcoin. And I think what Dogecoin should do is try to be the cutting edge of what front runner leading where Bitcoin development will go. And I think that's what I find really exciting. I think Dogecoin is a relatively more open-minded community. Dogecoin has switched consensus system before, right? It used to be self-mined, now it's merge mined with Litecoin, right? And I think Dogecoin is, from a technical perspective, more open-minded, and I think it can take that mantle of being the place that shows what innovation is possible, that will eventually make its way back again.
Any other takes here? I got some context, I guess. I mean, yeah, Steve's talking kind of the vision for what Dogecoin could be. I think I don't speak on behalf of the core developers, but I think they would probably agree that the main challenge is the lack of core developers. And so I think maybe this cycle, this price action, the attendance at this conference will lead to kind of like a renewed interest in contributing. But I think that's the main challenge with bringing any proposals or significant changes to Dogecoin right now is there's a real lack of core developers, especially ones that have been there a while, that know the code base well because it has diverged completely from Bitcoin and Litecoin. And so I know they've made efforts to try to bring in their friends from other ecosystems, try to get people contributing to core a bit more. But I think that's the main roadblock. My understanding is they take their jobs, so to speak. I mean, they're volunteers, but their jobs seriously as stewards of Dogecoin. So they're certainly not looking to just kind of A, make a decision all on their own without kind of community consensus, or B, do a crazy experiment that causes a big problem because this is a $50, $60 billion currency. So I think, I kind of agree with Sunny on the community perspective and the potential for Dogecoin. But my message would be, please come contribute to Dogecoin core development and then help make that happen. I think that's really the only way it's going to happen, because you just can't ask a handful of volunteers to go and figure out how to bring Taproot and SegWit in when the code base is already diverged for so long. So that would be my take on kind of the state of things.
Sweet, that's super helpful. What do you think about the incentives of that dynamic, right? I guess there is some incentive, right? With this much distribution, this much market share to come in, both maybe for altruistic, but perhaps for selfish reasons to grab the ecosystem. Hey, we're going to contribute core devs, but we want to make a test bed for Bitcoin or whatever, right? So that we can prove out our tech, right? Is that considered a bad thing, or how do you check that with the community to make sure?
It's a good question. I mean, I think anyone wanting to come and contribute to Dogecoin is a good thing, for sure. At the end of the day, no one can hide it. I mean, so it's not like you can just come in and force some code in that the community doesn't agree with, or the core developers don't agree with. I see it as a good thing for sure. I think, the question of incentives is a big thing. I mean, there is a Dogecoin developer tip jar that raised Dogecoin when it was fractions of a penny, and therefore, is worth a fair bit of money and has been able to fund, contribute, support. And I mean, they share this with anyone who contributes. If you contribute translations for the Core wallet, things like that, which is really awesome. I think probably what we need is, we need companies who have the resources to contribute for development. Of course, they're going to have some sort of like self-interest in doing so, but presumably that interest is in bringing Dogecoin forward or helping Dogecoin or that kind of thing. I think that's probably like the next level. I mean, I would say we personally would love to contribute more resources to the core developers or to bring in developers and tell them, hey, just go work on core. That's something we're thinking about. So hopefully more people can too.
Okay, last round of questions. We've got 1 minute left, so quick answers here. This is the inaugural DogeCon. We're back next year, DogeCon too. What are we talking about? What's the hot topic of DogeCon?
Am I correct that this is not the inaugural DogeCon? The first one was actually in Vancouver in 2019.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Best conference I've ever been to.
It's the inaugural, it's going to keep happening every year now without missing any years, DogeCon. I think that's not even enough.
The question stands.
You would say like the first massive people who game it's built on like Doge chain that brings like millions of users of it maybe?
Yeah, I think, and I've actually been telling people at conferences this all year that I think in the next year's conferences you're gonna see many Doge specific side events. You're going to see Doge hackathons, you're going to see Doge builders everywhere. And so that's what I imagine next year. I mean, this is already pretty big. I think the recent price action has helped contribute to that. But I just think it's going to be a lot bigger. I mean, we're going from, although it's a blockchain, we're basically going from like token to ecosystem right now. And that's like what all of us here are working on. So I anticipate like it's not just like one DogeCon a year and that's the Doge event. I think every major conference you go to, we're going to see Doge events. And like a lot of people you meet will have played Doge games or engage with Doge apps or Doge social file or whatever.
Awesome. Great. We'll wrap it up there. We're right on time. This is the last panel of the day, so our host and moderator have some closing comments. But a huge thanks to all the panelists for a great discussion, and we'll see you next year.